Welcome back to the PPC qualifiers. We've done Europe 6. Gore is just going to let you know.
I've got the energy.
I appreciate you, Gore. And that's great. Europe is qualified. Congrats to all 6 teams that have qualified to the PPC over in Europe. But as you point out, we have what now?
Brazil. You got to lean back when you do it. Otherwise,
right, otherwise
it
just doesn't work right.
It's to
Understood.
You straighten out your throat so the energy can just...
Right, shoots up into the air, up into the sky, and then just rains down all around us.
Yeah,
right?
and
No, go ahead.
Wash your hands.
Right.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna walk it back right now with the state of the world. Wash your hands.
Right.
Don't spew air don't spew your air into
wait
the
a
sky
second.
for everyone.
What are you doing to us here?
I'm clean. I'm good.
All
everyone else is good too.
Yeah, you should spend
as far as
between 15 and 30 seconds
Finch may be
washing
dying.
your hands.
I'm not
right?
sure.
Yeah, Finch is still okay. He's casting this set for us. Brazil, though, as we finally get to the point, is what we're going to be watching here. Well, it's Gados versus Catapimbas is going to be the matchup that we're watching. Group A and B on your screen. Now we're going to be looking at a matchup over there in Group A. Well, it's Gados, a team that I think should be able to make a stamp here on this matchup.
Yeah.
Though largely in Brazil, I will say that there's kind of those 2, 3, 4 kind of top teams with some names that you're all very familiar with, but Brazil, maybe more so than any other region, has a lot of teams that are kind of making a name for themselves for the first time.
And the proving grounds. And this is actually it's like the double-edged blade. Like we've had a few players retire going into this year or that are planning to retire after this year, things like that. And that's when new names get to show up, right? Brazil has had a lot of teams for a long time, but the only way to compete was to queue into North America and really hope that you could beat any of the NA PPL teams or PML teams. And for some people, if you're looking at Space Station of last year, they were able to make it into the PPL. Or if you're looking at, 5-Stack Esports, you're able to maintain a spot in the PML. But now you've got your own region, so more teams get to show up, more names get to be seen, and now there's a facility for all of those Brazilian players to kind of come forward and showcase what they have.
Yeah, and Catapimbas, and you talk about names kind of coming to the forefront for the first time, names like FPIJA 28F7J9, the frontliner for Catapimbas, and EuSouOBixoVindo, which roughly translates to something about being a beast or a beast appearing or something along those lines. So we expect big things there out of those guys. I am excited, though, jokes aside, to kind of see what they're able to bring to the forefront. Not the teams necessarily in this group that I expect to have that big stamp on them, but maybe along that same vein, Brazil is a region where you look at Europe, you look at NA, and there's kind of 3-4 teams fighting for the top 3 spots. This is one where some of those new names, like the ones I bring up now, can kind of put themselves in the forefront.
I would argue, because you've got Mandrake's University in Group A, and you've got Fine Thin Gaming in Group B.
Right.
And those teams are going to be your top spot. Like, if they are not, it blows my mind. And whoever takes the top spot from them, it's good on them.
Yep.
So my eyes are, what is that? That's 2 out of 12 teams that I think are guaranteed. Yeah. That's 10 spots, essentially, that are being open for, or 8 spots that are still being fought for. So it'll be fun to see how exactly those teams come forward with it and what they're going to be able to do because, I mean, right now, it's all up in the air in my eyes.
I agree. All up in the air is a good way of looking at it, picks and bans. For game number 1, saw the map bands kind of down there towards the bottom.
My math is so bad. 4 spots. There's 2 teams. There's 6 spots total. There's 4 spots they're fighting for. 10 teams fighting for them.
Is it worse that you said that or I didn't call you out on it? I'm not quite sure.
No,
that's
on me.
It's on
Don't
you.
do math on cast. It's a rule.
Yeah, I'm the worst offender of that, right? So many times I'm trying to do math, goal differentials, simple things like we're in a best of 5 and it's 2 to 2. I don't know. At that point.
Once we get numbers
involved, I'm already starting to
out.
poorly do math here at this point. Moving on, Bomb King Khan, Jenos banned out for Catapimbas here. I wonder how we look at Ruckus and what a role he plays in that European meta. I wonder if any of that starts to carry over to Brazil. I know NA has kind of adopted the Ruckus just a little bit. Do you imagine him being prioritized here in this region?
I honestly don't know. I feel like my heart wants to say yes, because when you go back to any of the LATAM games we used to have, or if you look at any Brazilian players that we used to have, or I guess with a Brazilian team, Sadak loved himself some Ruckus, and in my mind that should translate to the region-loving Ruckus. But I don't think it's going to. I don't think we're going to get to see it as highly prioritized. But I think he's got a place. I don't know if Jack Falls is that place, but I think if we go to like Serpent Beach, he will still get picked up.
In Raum, though, that answers that question. I was wondering where he would fall. I think that's kind of a universal.
Right up there.
He is very important, very strong, no exception here in Brazil. Ying and Cassie, though. Cassie, one of the 33% here in the Brazilian qualifiers. A champ that was so potent towards the end of the year in the PPL, and we haven't really seen her all that much recently.
We are coming from a time where Cassie was like required for your team. Like somebody in the game, one of the 10 champions, had to be Cassie. The fact that I can't remember the last time I saw a Cassie game might be a good sign, I think, for the health of all the champions, but also just for where she is sitting right now. I think it's going to be interesting to have her impact this game. Good against Terminus, good against Barik, good damage for her. But she's kind of been superseded by the Leon. I want to see what exactly they have to offer throughout this map.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Cassie's able to do. Terminus locked in. I sort of mentioned when we saw him on Ice Mines, he's starting to kind of move his way into other maps outside of just Ice Mines. Jaguar Falls, certainly a map where he is viable. Moji, another champion that is very viable here on Jaguar Falls. Fawn, yelling at the top of his lungs from back in the replay area, and Moji's locked in.
You know, I want to go back, what was it, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, when she was locked in on Stone Keep. That was not very good. Moji on Jag Falls is pretty good, though. In the right hands, there's a big caveat on there. It's not just something you can replicate. We saw Na'Vi do it a lot last year, where it was like they were the only team that made it successfully work for a few weeks, then other teams were able to kind of pick it up. So there's a good chance for her to showcase a lot of talent here, but we'll have to see.
Los Gados with a very Jaguar Falls-esque draft. Do you think Catapimbas have drafted something that can deal with what they've brought them?
I mean, if this Raum can do what Flashpoint did on Raum, then yes, but I think
there's
again, that's a big ask. Trinsic played that phenomenally. We'll have to see if they're going to be able to offer the same level.
Well, with lots of spots up for grabs, Catapimbas and Los Gados are going to look to start it off with a win.
Game number 1. Thanks, Dolson and Gormaj, the dream team up there on the desk. We got to do our best now, Kresnik, to be the next best team, I suppose so, right? By process of eliminations. Finch Kresnik here to move on to Jaguar Falls. And from those picks and bans, what do you expect we're going to be seeing here, bud?
We're going to see that Inara going in. The Raum going in very deep to make space for that Inara. The Koga going to be following up, just making as much room as possible.
No backliner is safe.
No backliner is safe, but I mean, if you want anyone to withstand that pressure, it's going to be that Vivian. I mean, Vivian can fight back against a Raum, I think, pretty effectively. That shield getting in the way. Raum doesn't get those soul fragments, that lifesteal that lets him live through all that consistent damage when he's shooting into a shield. So any character with a shield or any direct denial of getting those red numbers that you can get against a Raum, the better it's going to be.
Keep our eyes on this Moji as well. I know, not just Fawn excited to see this. Everyone wants to see what it is that you can do. An early stun coming out on this left-hand side battle. But early not favoring anyone in particular here just yet as KingKaiser tries to burn through this Raum quite quickly. Right when I say it, they find first blood. He ends up getting traded back out as well. Good luck saying that name as the Koga takes down one in his own right and right back onto the point fight. Here we go. The Terminus says hello, and iMäd has got to be upset about that one. He's got to take a seat. A double kill now for divinö. And this Terminus has said hello already. Los Gados already with control.
Definitely interesting to see Crush, too, just wanting to bring a little bit more CC into their lineup because they kind of lack it. Furia Beam, Moji Ultimate, otherwise there's really not a lot of direct hard CC, so having that in the team means that they might have to buy Resilience just for the pressure of that Crush. They need some more hard CC maybe because they can't stop that Terminus running in.
And the Raum is dashing in as well, trying to find some kind of point touch, but is only barely able to get the overtime on for a minute. 2 quick kills, though, do come in. The Cassie has found one, but a nice response from KingKaiser, a double kill. But Catapimbas have made their way onto the actual point itself, though, to try and keep this match going on. And so Los Gados have got to try and find a way to regroup. Everyone except for this Moji, though, who is stepping in to put a little bit of damage onto this Inara, but nothing much coming from it now as Los Gados are right back in, stepping up this overtime to see if they can find it. Gets nothing from that one, and there's the objective captured and a nice kill into the Inara to boot.
They had a decent amount of cap time on the side of Catapimbas, but I feel like the Raum was just too passive. Wasn't really doing anything on the backside.
He ran in and ran out, right?
And in the first fight, the Moji just walked at him the whole time, and he wasn't able to accomplish anything.
Yeah, a bit surprised that we're not seeing much more value coming out of that Raum, especially after the game Trinsic had on it earlier on, but it's a long set potentially, so that means there'll be plenty of time for this Raum to try and find some later on value. Now Los Gados in position to make the push. They still have Inflame Sentinel on its way up here soon, as is Bomb Shield. I say that, but the Inflame dropped by the Furia early on. Penny under a tremendous amount of pressure has to fall back as the Raum pushes everybody out.
And actually, there was a great use of the CC from the Raum sprint there, knocking up the Vivian twice inside the Cyclone Strike from the Koga, so absolutely no way she could get away from that. Now, I want to see them get forward. I want to see them pressure. That's where this Raum is going to shine, but he used his run just to dismount, and now they have to back up because that's basically their only tool to engage.
They gotta fall back. They're very reliant on that ability. Moji looking to find one ultimate committed here, and that sets up for a nice kill from the Cassie to take down the Vivian, but the Raum has to fall back one more time here again. That's PabloSchumacher, I have to imagine, is how I'm gonna have to say that one, as he has struggled to really find the space I think you typically would expect from the Raum, looking to keep this Furia pinned down. That's a pretty big kill they're finally able to get.
Finally made an opening too. The sprint in the back is going to force them to turn, and that's what your Raum has to do.
Yep.
All that cleave damage from the sprint to 700 every single time you run into someone. You can't ignore that. That's a full life exchange burst from the Ying. If it was on the other side, being spent on that, or a full Fury heal, 2 seconds of no healing just because he ran into you.
And this is huge. They kept this Vivian pinned back here in the corner. The Inara stepped in too, but the Inara ends up losing the trade. That's it for Barinoo. He ends up being taken care of quite nicely, and Los Gados still in control. I was going over some of the ultimates they had available, but they used that Inflame defensively, had used to fall back, but it's almost back now. If Los Gados want, they might have those tools for a decent last push, if that is the way they want to push it, or they might save it for the next mid-fight.
If there's any push you're going to spend it on, it should be the first one, because there's no threat
you have time to get it
there's
back,
no
yeah.
threat of losing if you give it up, right? Even if they snowball the next round, it's still only 3-1. But with this split right now, a great wall from Barinoo means
nice.
I think they're going to be saving these ultimates.
I think so too. At this point, it's going to be difficult for them to make any kind of push pass to try and grab it. KingKaiser does find one kill, but this Cassie still chilling in the backline finding shots. Barinoo does end up falling, and hold up now. KingKaiser's got to the back, found the Cassie here as well. They've got the Inflame dropped at this point. It looked like they used the Reanimate as well, so Los Gados are absolutely in on trying to make this push happen. The Koga dives in, drops down the ultimate too, does find some space, but not any actual kills. That means Los Gados can absolutely keep up the push, but now they've lost the Vivian. A lot of their damage has been taken off the table.
It's a lot of pressure on KingKaiser now, fighting in the back, and finally the Koga gets the trade with the Raum stunned. I think it might be it.
Yeah, I agree too, especially at this point without their damage. Successful defense will come out from Catapimbas, so they can now head back towards that mid-fight. This is a much more reasonably paced game, I would say, than what we saw from the previous pace. But are you surprised at all that Los Gados committed that many resources there on the end of that push?
If they didn't get the Koga pick, I would have been. But as I was saying that, they managed to get the trade onto the Koga. And if you can turn the fight fast enough, a 1v4 Koga isn't really doing the same. He's not really hitting the same way that a normal team fight Koga would be. So not shocked that they spent it after that point. And that fight was long enough where they charged some other ultimates up. They spent another Inflame and already have 50% back, almost having a Dome Shield. They have enough to make this fight go. And the way you talked about pacing before, that it's a more decent pacing, right? It shouldn't be. There's a Raum in the game.
Right, you're a bit surprised.
They should be going way faster than this, but I feel like they're just playing too defensive.
I'm very surprised at the way that we've seen this Raum play here so far, but as I mentioned earlier, there's still plenty of time for him to find some of that aggression or show us the success of the slower pace. The Inara early on takes a ton of extra damage from that trade. This Moji has done a good job getting the backline, finding some damage, but the Koga has locked him down here now. An excellent kill early on to put this fight into favor into Catapimbas. I say that, but it's got Los Gados that already have 45% to their name, but they're on the full retreat path now. A time for that Raum to finally comes out. He knocks up 3. The Fury in some trouble, but the Koga doesn't want to stick around to finish up the job. They've already done plenty, though. The percent now starting to rack up as Furia manages to barely get out of there.
Also, Moji turning Raum into a cookie and taking him down is going to make it way harder to stay aggressive, but this wall is going to make it harder for them to touch. It might have to be the Moji going in with the personal barrier.
KingKaiser will go in here first on the back of that double kill that he just got, keeping this Inara busy, forcing her off of the point, completing the delayed triple kill as well, as Barinoo now falls as well. And just when this looked like a really good fight for Catapimbas, Los Gados fight their way right back in off a big ultimate as well to take the Raum out of the equation early on. And even still, now the Raum finally going to come diving in, but doesn't even get the point touch. Los Gados get a second capture.
The Pyro Strike was perfect. It caught Raum mid-sprint. They knew exactly where he was going to have to run. Honestly, it could have been better for Catapimbas. I don't know why the Inara decided the one place she was going to be safe was in close range with a Moji on Jaguar Falls. She backs up into this tiny little room and just hopes that she'll be showing mercy, but So we all know Moji can show no mercy, and you can see it by the aggression right now, too.
Yeah, KingKaiser clearly showing that this pick absolutely can work. Does find one to turn to the treat and wants to try and finish off the kill, but can't quite find it. That's the Koga, ever elusive, that makes his way back out of there. So a nice stall finally for Catapimbas to hold off Los Gados for now, but they're already halfway through with plenty of time on the clock. They're just going to be waiting on ultimates to charge up as they start to finally get some kills to Catapimbas.
Yeah, they can just buy as much time. They want to be shooting right now. If I'm this Barik, I want to turn around and get some damage on this Koga because I want to get closer to Dome Shield, but I guess he knew he could get out. Terminus is a peel monster. He can get you out of any situation if you're coordinated enough to set up for it.
But look how far past now their own... This is onto the opposite side of the match, the Los Gados side of the map now that Catapimbas have started to push in as we're around this mid-fight, a little bit beyond that even here at this point. So Los Gados have got to find a way to break through this first so they can even start their push. But Kaiser's found Barinoo, and that should be a pretty big way to start this off. A stun lands onto the Raum now too, so KingKaiser can get in range and start laying in the damage, and that's plenty. The frontliners taken out of the equation early on. I think Catapimbas might have pushed up a bit too far, and Los Gados can start making their push.
And I talked about how shooting into a shield kind of denies the Terminus from the Raum, from getting any of that self-sustain. Terminus just siphoning on top of his Furia. Raum just wants to get that kill, but not only is he doing no damage, he's feeding Terminus more damage and getting no health back. There was nothing he could do there that would help out, and you can see he has to pick his fights so carefully, sprinting out. He can't just fight anyone willy-nilly.
What is Barinoo supposed to do there? KingKaiser continues the pressure, and it continues to stagger these death spawns for Catapimbas. They have not been able to set up a full defense here just yet, and Moji wants to get aggressive even more, committing the dash to get it close to the Raum, burning him quickly, and continuing to force these tanks to fight isolated without the benefit of working together. The Koga pushed out now as well. Perfect shots to put him down. KingKaiser is here to play.
One accidental bullet into the magic barrier, and suddenly there's nothing you can do. Pressuring on the right side, but they got to start focusing on the point.
They have to, because this payload is starting to knock right on the door. Raum finds nothing, does not get a touch of the actual payload, and just like that, Los Gados now up 3-1 with one more point fight, easily being able to seal it for him if they were to win it. But what have you seen here from Catapimbas that it has not worked here for them so far? Is it just this Raum play where you wish you were getting a bit more?
I think he's doing an okay job at turning their heads, but I feel like maybe there's not enough follow-up when he actually does, and that's why he's playing so pensively, or so slowly at least.
Sure.
Yeah, also, look at the other side. KingKaiser, 100,000 damage, 19-6.
That is nasty.
Outdamaging his own Vivian by 25k, a character who's basically just damaged into a team with no shields, which should be racking it up even more and more. So maybe spending the CC that they have on the Moji to find those kills. But now we're getting into late game. Resilience is going to start getting higher and higher for KingKaiser, and they're not going to be able to use that for a guaranteed kill.
And what it really is from KingKaiser is that it's hard for 100,000 damage to all be relevant damage.
Yeah.
But I feel like it really has been this game, hasn't it? He has done such a good job of picking the right targets, pressuring them out of the fights early, and making sure that these front lines in particular, these tanks are always staggered. Furia removed early on from this fight, as was Barinoo, though, so it's 1 for 1. Make that 2 for 1, as one more ends up falling on the opposite side there as well. This fight now really starting to favor Los Gados. They've already got 57% stacked up, and who from Catapimbas can even move in to try and find the point? It's got to be this Raum, but they've done such a good job of locking him down mid-dash. He's going to look for it now to make his way in, 90%, but he still hasn't quite found his way in. They find the stun. Big ultimate comes out from him, though, to at least force him off the point, but now it's at 96%. Los Gados run him over easily, and it's just the Inara left onto the point to try and keep this fight going. Moji comes back through. It's a double kill for the Vivian as well, and Los Gados should have this one locked up.
They do, with that pressure from the Vivian and the Moji.
Wow.
Perfect positioning. And PabloSchumacher had a hero play. His ultimate, the CC immunity from that, made it so he did not get turned into a cookie by Moji's.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter. He stuns 3 people in the backline, but everyone else is just in the way. They can't find anybody.
Los Gados ran over them that game, didn't they? And I think there is something to be said about maybe they needing a little bit more pressure here from this Raum, but I really think that Moji was the main problem here from this game. They didn't have an answer.
I mean, you got to get used to playing against it, right? This is the only map you can do that
That's
on.
right,
You have
yeah.
to play against Moji on Jaguar Falls enough to know what to do against it.
And this time they didn't quite have that answer, but it could potentially be a long set. We're going to have another one of what we just saw in set number 2. Let's find out on the other side of this break.
Game 1 came and went, and Los Gados find themselves on top of that one. A little bit lengthier than the Flashpoint Jaguar Falls that we just saw, but still a pretty convincing win for Los Gados nonetheless. Gourmets are still with me to talk about this one. A game where Raum was able to make his way into the pick ban phase, or in the pick phase, rather.
Yeah.
Didn't quite have the impact they were hoping for.
I think you go back and you look at that first pick, now, and you're just like, that might have not worked out the way we wanted it to. Granted, do I think you let it through? No, I think you absolutely had to pick it up. I will give shout-outs to Kúze there, the 834 Cassie being able to pick it up. A kind of shining light in a sea of darkness on that team otherwise, because when it comes to Los Gados,
Oh my god.
I mean, who do I talk to? Who would I talk
KingKaiser
about other than KingKaiser? Like, I can't
so
look
much.
anywhere else except, hey, wait, there was someone else with a max streak. Someone beat him on that part.
We're looking for any excuse to talk about anyone other than this Moji,
Hey,
but
she
it's,
played well.
but it is hard to do. KingKaiser had 110,000 damage in this game. Call it 30,000 higher than anyone else. 21 kills on this Moji.
That's a lot.
And this is,
That's a lot of
this is
kills.
Jaguar Falls. It's Moji. You don't often see that snack time like really connect on some of the impactful ways that it does. I mean, it's a great ultimate in kind of these 1v1 scenarios, but I think save that last one that was shrugged off by that Raum, KingKaiser made good use of those ultimates.
And that was what was interesting, and this is in my opinion personally, I think a polymorph is going to be great no matter what.
Yep.
Yes, it's a polymorph into an execute. That sounds sick. But honestly, even if you only get
Just
half
a
of that,
polymorph,
I
sure.
think is pretty good. Hey, this Raum is not doing damage and is out of the fight for, what, 30 seconds? Well, not 30 seconds, like 5 seconds. That's perfectly fine by me. I think moments like that are really good. And I think that was what helped this Moji escalate, was times where it's like, yeah, I hit the ult. Maybe I didn't get the execute, but you had to run away with your, well, I guess dog biscuit tail tucked between your dog biscuit legs, or dragon biscuit, either way. It was just, they had to run away.
Don't ask me.
And
I couldn't
not
tell
be
ya.
happy and not be a part of the fight. So it was really big for the Moji.
That's a big win there for Los Gados in game number 1. Picks and bans for game number 2. Joining your screen now. It is going to be Frog Isles for the first time we're going to get to see this map here today. In the previous meta, you have to wonder about snipers, and I still think that despite some of the changes, you have to be on the lookout for teams. Who was it that we watched? They double-picked snipe. No, that was Timber Mill.
That was
They
Timber Mill.
double-picked snipers on. Strix, though, banned out here this time around. Los Gados might have to consider banning out that Kinessa.
It's the question of ban it,
Or
play against it,
play
or
against
pick it.
it, right.
Depends on what's coming. With Raum still available, you have that opening. Of course, Torvald was still open as well. I mean, a lot of things that were high precedence comes through. But now you choose Raum versus Kinessa. Which one do you want? And I actually like the Raum a little more because he can get to that backline consistently. That Kinessa is going to be under pressure, under duress a lot of this game. He might not be able to kill her, but he will cause some trouble.
Well, Catapimbas agree with you. Snagged themselves the Raum with Los Gados putting that 100% win rate, granted only 10% pick rate on the Kinessa, putting it to the test. The Jenos, though, not only a good healer, but time and time again, we talk about some of the counter that it brings to the Raum. You're able to interrupt that kind of big, long sprint that he's able to run through a lot of your team. We saw 3-man knockups from it from PabloSchumacher in the last game. So at least a little bit of peel for themselves with that Jenos.
So I want to ask you, Dave.
Go ahead.
1,800 damage sounds pretty good, right? This is a headshot for a Kinessa.
Yes, that sounds okay.
Then go with, let's say, steady aim. You add 30% damage on top of that. That's a pretty good number. Then you add 15% more on top
So
of
it's
that.
2,400
So
with the
it's
extra 30%.
a lot of damage that can come through. And I
Yeah,
think this
on an
Kinessa is going to
Evie
be able
or-
to hurt a lot of people.
I say on an Evie, on a squishy, it's kind of hard to consistently headshot an Evie.
The
but
minute it
Furia,
gets over 2,200, you're
Yeah.
just like, all right, yeah, you're going to win.
Yeah, you're sad about it. Furia locked in for Catapimbas as well. Terminus continues to kind of make his way out of ice mines as Zhin is locked in. Do you like him here on Frog Isle?
It's definitely a map he can work on, and I think he can work well here compared to some of the others where he might falter, but I don't know if he's my go-to. Granted, I don't think he was Gados' go-to either because it was their last tank pick that comes through. And against Raum and Inara,
No
I
chance.
think he's going to have a lot of control.
What?
And they called your bluff.
No way. What? This isn't Jaguar Falls.
You
What?
went all in, and they were just like, all right, bet, and then flipped over whatever the best thing you can have in poker is.
I'm still
I
waiting.
just showed my hand, which is that I don't play a lot of poker.
A royal straight flush, I think, is the...
Those are words.
They are words. I was going to ask you words about Moji, but we'll let Finch do the talking as Game 2 is about to kick off.
My goodness, Gormizer's a national treasure, man. We love that guy. Game number 2. It's Finch and Kresnik as we move into Frog Isle, but it's not just any Frog Isle here. You might think I want to talk about the snipers, or maybe I want to talk about this Terminus. No, we have to talk about this Moji that's getting locked in here again. Are you with Dave as flabbergasted that we're seeing it here yet again?
I have played with the best Moji one-tricks in Ranked. This is a map where I have seen them pick anything else.
Right.
This might be one of the worst Moji maps ever. There's so many sightlines, it's so hard to pressure. I guess if they push into you, maybe you can win the trades on your own side, but
But he had such a good game one, though, right?
on the best map for Moji possible.
all that is true.
I think we're gonna see how much of a difference a map makes, especially since he's playing in main in the biggest sightline possible.
Yeah, this could potentially be trouble for him. We'll have to keep our eye on how this goes for Kaiser here so far. It is, of course, worth keeping an eye on how this Kinessa knows. There is no sniper on the other side to sort of keep track of where this Kinessa is when she's pointing out, so she should have free reign as Kaiser tries to get into range for one more big burst of damage. Can't quite find it there. Instead, gonna turn targets, look for this Evie. Now back over to the Inara. First blood ends up falling in favor of PabloSchumacher, but gets answered back right away. Catapimbas this time, the ones controlling the kill feed and the actual percentage on the point. They're already at 90%.
And they can get so aggressive to zone with this, but I guess they can't now with that one kill. Still, point counting up means they have it in the bag for themselves. And a tank in both lanes, pretty forward. Gonna need a DPS with them, but this is good zoning so far, and it looks like they already want to get a little aggressive.
And this is why the Jenos such a good pickup here. They took it over the Furia into the Raum. That Void Grip is such a problem for him. Catches him mid-dash, and he's just a sitting duck. It's KingKaiser that gets that one. The Kinessa trying to find a nice kill for herself, too. And Catapimbas now starting to get pushed back a little bit here as Los Gados win a successful fight around mid and are now fully pushed up to zone out.
And this is good because once they back up, they have the support of this Kinessa as they get forced into the sight lines to make it to the objective. So since they're all stacking in one place, which means no one's hiding, they all have to walk into this Kinessa, but she's not reloading. She's going to be out of the fight pretty soon.
Yeah, still hasn't really found that many shots. So the Kinessa is going to fall back for now. Kaiser, the hero from set number 1, is going to try and prove that Moji can be evergreen and work on any map. Shuts down the Zhin here early on. If she can isolate that Inara, we've seen her already make quick work of those. Raum has to go full disengage those. Los Gados starting to fall back to find better position. Good Void Grip. The follow-up damage is there, and the Raum falls yet again. It's a double kill now for the Kinessa.
And this is, I love how actually Los Gados is playing this because they picked this Moji last into no backline on the other team. It's just Zhin and Evie, so they're just playing her really passive, right next to the tanks to eat this damage, to eat the guillotine.
Wow.
Didn't actually get the kill though. They didn't get the follow-up on the trade, so maybe a bit of a failing there.
But I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're okay with seeing it happen under the Moji instead of under the tanks. It's hard to say for sure, but this is finally a good fight now for Catapimbas. They've found 3 kills in a row with which to start pushing this payload forward, and it's Evie time to get to that backline. Is able to find a nice shot on Pénny to take down that Terminus, but looks like he'll be holding on to the reanimate for now. He will indeed actually end up falling. So this is a decent push now for Catapimbas, but a good grab there from the Void Grip, and KingKaiser gets the kill.
It does free up the run for Pablo, though, so he's going to try to use it, I think, to get in and pressure Moji after the barrier. Has to disengage. Doesn't want that Void Grip once it comes back up to be a threat to him. And they can't stay in these open sightlines against this Kinessa. They have to back up on the side of Catapimbas. They just do not want to eat this burst damage, but giving up this ground is just going to free room for the Kinessa. Clearly, Mika's played this character before. He's not going to be pushing so far forward that he's going to get caught out by the repressure.
Nice shot there from the Kinessa onto the Zhin. Almost took him entirely out of the fight there that time. Big shots coming out from this Kinessa way in the back line. We're into overtime already, but look at these ultimates for Los Gados. We just saw Kinessa drop hers, but just about everyone else is going to come into full resources for this next point fight. So is Catapimbas as well. There are going to be fireworks going in this next mid fight as the chain lands from Makoa to try and catch out this Inara. Los Gados have not given up on this push here just yet.
Now that they're so close, the flanks can pressure the Kinessa a lot more, which is going to make things a lot harder for this Nessa, and then Makoa has to peel back for her.
And the Evie heads right to the back line. Catapimbas wants to try and put this one to bed, takes care of one. A double kill now. She takes care of Pénny as well, who's still lurking nearby. It's just the Makoa, it feels like that they really have got to take care of to open up this point a little bit more. Los Gados, though, defend successfully, stop the push from Catapimbas, and we'll be heading back into that mid-fight I talked about.
Honestly, with a little bit more communication between the flanks, they might have been able to turn that if the Evie got to the point. The health was just so bad on the side of Los Gados, but they managed to get it still, trading the Ancient Rage for it.
Look at the damage.
Saving the oh my goodness.
Yeah, this Moji dude is having a game.
They are running it down onto this Moji, and I think that's a big part of why she's getting so much. Like I said before, no backline on the other side, so her playing in the open doesn't matter as much. Just burning down everybody who tries to pressure the tanks, making things a lot easier for this Inara Makoa, sorry, for the Terminus Makoa, when it might be a lot tougher into this Zhin with Guillotine, who's going to be applying so much pressure that they can't really deal with alone.
We were wondering, how's this Moji going to get in there and find the damage? How's Kaiser going to do it? But they've kind of brought the fight to him. And I think Kaiser's okay with that for the most part. He's going to fight right up near that midpoint. And he's been putting pressure onto this Inara all game long, but it's the Evie on the flank and a little bit of backup coming from the Raum as well. Kúze finds the first kill. iMäd gets 1-2, and now this Evie really can start running rampant. Gets away from that Void grip from the Jenos, but they've already got 24% built up. Avoids getting hit by the ultra from the Jenos from long range. Barinoo gets one more as Pénny falls too, but Kaiser finds himself a double kill, forces the Evie to try and get out of there, make that a triple kill. Okay, the Moji can play just about anywhere.
Why isn't this the Moji player I get in my games? Why do I get the one that has to off class? It's crazy seeing the dominance he's had so far on a map that I think is usually one of the worst for her, but still always being in this right position to counter these pushes. Now they still have the Moji's ultimate to stop this Raum potentially from running in, get an immediate execute on him, and turning a Raum from 100 to 0 is huge, and they hooked comboed it!
Yeah, perfect. Pablo ends up getting pulled in, and there just are not any options available to you to avoid that one from happening. Perfect combination there with Kaiser and his frontliner working together. Savage now, and he gets 9 in a row, peels 1 off the point, gonna try and keep the Koga from finding a touch here as well when he wants to try and step his way in. But Los Gados with the overtime ticking down, they're forcing the members to come in. Zhin steps in first, buys some time for the Raum to show up and get the knock-up, but Kaiser somehow is just staying up, sticking around this fight right in open view of everyone, but finally gets shut down by the Zhin.
And the unfortunate thing here for Los Gados, even though that fight looked so good, is that early cap time from Catapimbas means they really don't have a chance to hit the point again at all.
Right.
Maybe that early res, a small misstep from the Terminus. Now that they're getting pressured back as this Evie finds a great shot onto the Kinessa. They need to get aggressive in zone here. They want to buy as much space as they can. They don't want to give these close corners to this Moji.
That's right, Moji has made great use of it here so far. PabloSchumacher gets another kill, working together with the Zhin one more time. They are pushed all the way into the base of Los Gados, not letting KingKaiser free cast. He manages to get a double kill, but does get traded back out, and this Raum buying space freely as the payload already start to make it about halfway through this push.
And they have good positioning, I think, here so far. They have to stay, they want to stay close on the corners, but they want to stay in an open enough area where the Moji can't do what they need to. Just close enough to pressure the Kinessa, but not in that one specific spot that she's watching, unfortunate for the Evie. And they're going to have to back up. Probably stalemate again for a bit here, but I think they might smell a little more. They might see some pressure. Chances they're going to take.
That's what it's looking like. Los Gados want to get into that backline right away and stagger this, eat up some of this extra time that Catapimbas have to work with for this push and not give them that time onto the actual payload. The Inara steps forward, but KingKaiser's loved this fight all game. Finally chooses to fall back, so now he'll take some free damage onto this Raum, who is turning for someone else, catches him out perfectly with the ultimate yet again, but somehow this is still a good fight for Catapimbas. Too many eyes were on the Raum, and now they're going to keep on pushing with just the Kinessa and Jenos up.
I think the misstep there from Gados was pushing all the way past the wall and getting out of their Kinessa's sightline. You have to play in your sniper sightline if you want to make it work, and just fighting in a place where your sniper has to overextend to help you isn't going to help you at all, and Pénny's taking way too much damage to contest this point. This might be a 2-2.
Zhin goes right back to find iRoobsoN as well, takes the Jenos out of the equation, a double kill as they come back and cleans up the kill onto Pénny. It's just the Makoa left. Try and keep this payload from pushing in now, is willing to drop the Asian Rage here as well, but Kúze is a man on a mission, gets to the back and finds the Kinessa to leave the Makoa further isolated. He's buying, though, plenty of time for his team, but now the Moji here as well to start burning through, and Los Gados might be able to hopefully hold on and defend.
The close range damage from that Moji is so lethal in these last desperate situations where everyone's diving onto the objective. 50,000 more damage than the Zhin on his team, because he's always putting himself in the right place to just maximize the damage he's getting. And the timing on his magic barriers has been flawless. He's been hitting those counters to guarantee that follow-up damage on the Zhin.
At this point, I think we could say this is KingKaiser's squad, man. He just does it on this Moji. It's really impressive. I cannot believe Catapimbas weren't able to find a push there. They're going to get one more crack at it, though, and KingKaiser early on already low finds the sustain, turns around, though, and helps burn the Raum, but the Raum is zoning 3 members out of the fight. PabloSchumacher does indeed end up going down. Moji turns her eyes towards the Inara instead, and the damage turns out to be too much as he starts to melt under the pressure. The Evie has limited options on where to go, and Kaiser can't be fooled. Now dashing to the back line, defense successful, and Los Gados continue to hold on.
And they have a decent amount of ultimates too. I think only Ancient Rage not being used. And you can see right here, just out of the places out of the sites he needs to be in, perfectly timing that. This is just mastery of Moji mechanics that we really haven't seen anybody be willing to put the time into the character to have.
It's like anyone else willing to put this much work in for what is oftentimes so little result. But it's hard to argue with 135,000 damage. And truly the most impactful player, I would say, across this set so far has been KingKaiser as well. It's been really an impressive performance there from him. But what about from Catapimbas? I mean, they've now won 2 mid-fights in a row, and those have looked really impressive from them too.
I think it's part of having the Inara plus the Furia, like we mentioned in EU, just having that sustain on the point combo. Terminus Jenos, Term has a decent amount of self-sustain, but it's nowhere near the ability to keep up with a pocket healer like that.
Kind of tell they're not quite sure how to deal with this Moji, looking for the Evie on the left side, forcing the dash out early on. Chain ends up landing. This combination has worked perfectly for them so far, and he gobbles them up. But iMäd yet again, and the Zhin get 2 kills in the back, so it's 2 in return thanks to this Moji. And now if they can win the fight up against the Raum, they might be able to turn this one in general. There's the Void Grip locking him down. It's a rampage for KingKaiser. EuSouOBixoVindo is able to find the through time and space there as well, and suddenly Los Gados in control of the point fight.
Kaiser just poking at the Inara with the 100 damage spit, and every bit of damage counts. It's probably why he's so much ahead of everybody else right now. But he has to play back, I think. They don't really have an aggressive zoning comp. Not only do they want them to push corners into the Moji, they need them to push into this Kinessa for them to actually find the kills.
I think that's a great point. Every time a fight has gone wrong for Los Gados, it's when they push too far forward and they don't have that Kinessa anymore to provide that covering fire, or when the Moji no longer is kind of waiting on them to come to her. The Inara, though, a sitting duck, and Kaiser yet again is able to burn through the front line. The Zhin tries to make it to the point, but Pénny is the one that locks him down. Now in comes the Evie. They just have to find bodies to touch, but every one of them comes into the waiting hands of this Moji, and they just cannot withstand the damage. Now it's the Raum's turn to be sent back to base. That's the overtime ticking down, and Los Gados should get their first mid-fight win.
I think Gados this is a great answer to Raum, honestly, too. Just people that you don't want Raum to shoot. Raum hitting damage is his form of self-sustain. You have a Moji that you're taking more damage if you hit her. You have a Terminus where you're taking more damage if you hit him. It's so much that makes the Raum think twice about actually staying alive.
You're right, man. He has not been able to find his opportunity. I think being paired with that Jenos has helped a lot, too, because Jenos is the one that catches him out with the Void Grip, and the Moji cooks him alive when he ends up falling back down. The Inflame committed, though, from Catapimbas this time. They're going to find a pretty decent defense here to push back out Los Gados and try and eat up a little bit of that 2 minutes they have to find this payload push. Pénny and divinö both going to have to take a bit of a seat, and Catapimbas have bought themselves some breathing room.
And I think what they need to do is play just a little bit back around the corner from the chokes. Just far enough where they have to push an uncomfortable distance out of the Kinessa sight line to make that space, but close enough where they can actually, I think, deal enough damage. And actually, they're holding close, and they're willing to spend ultimates for this.
They are. They want to try and slow down this push from Los Gados right away. The Ancient Rage was committed as well from the Makoa early on, so certainly Los Gados willing to make some ultimate trades too. And it's worked so far. They've gotten back into position. The chain off the marks of the Zhin. Still okay for now to keep raining back in some damage. Catapimbas have got to hold this push off and try and fight their way back into one more mid-fight. There's the Moji on the right, but PabloSchumacher losing the trade, has to fall back out, heal back up and try and find another push, but pull back into the ultimate, but this time it's not on the mark, and that means Pablo's out of there.
I mean, I'm surprised they got it once. That is not easy to land. And they're still actually might manage to make something good out of this, but it's still a 1-for-1 trade.
KingKaiser ends up falling, but so does PabloSchumacher, trading the Moji for the Raum. Probably not that bad of a trade, but this kill feed starting to favor Catapimbas pretty heavily. This should delay Los Gados here yet again. They'll maybe get one more decent push out of this now, as Catapimbas have done a good job of forcing him back.
It is still 30 seconds, but there's so much burst damage on the side of Gados that they could turn this, honestly, at any time if they find the initial pick. So many ways to find it, too, but Moji taking too much in main means they probably have to play a lot more careful and pull back maybe just to bait them into the Kinessa site.
Inara has been her target really all game long with so few options to get away, and once Moji is in range, so a dash in aggressively again, trying to see if they can keep up this pressure. They're going to have to get this one done in overtime if Los Gados are going to get it done at all. The Raum comes right to the back line, knows the combo's not there this time, picked up by the Void Grip, and Moji going to let the damage in like he has done all game, and without a dash, Raum's not make it out of there. PabloSchumacher does get the kill onto Pénny to at least make it the trade, but KingKaiser continues the aggression, tries to get around to the Furia, but Zhin is waiting there in wait with an answer, shuts down KingKaiser.
Kaiser's going to find it harder and harder as the game goes on to stay alive. He's using his scamper and canceling it very quickly. just to get that burst of sustain, well, the slow sustain from the toot, giving himself just a little bit more to go through the damage with. But now we're getting into COD 2, COD 3 territory. You can see Evie, Inara, Zhin all having that means that it's going to be a lot harder for Kaiser to actually live through that, which is why he has to rush all these abilities he is. Life Rip, Haven, anything else to keep him alive other than that sustain he's relying on at the start.
It's so hard to talk about Moji seriously, isn't it, with the scamper and the scoot at this point? It's tough, but it's at this point, KingKaiser has forced your hand. You've got to really start deep diving and find some kind of way to analyze this pick because it has been wreaking havoc. We're 3-3, though. This point fight will be the one that decides our victor, and I don't know, man. I'm kind of geeking out. This has been an awesome set here so far. I'm excited to see how this next fight here is going to go.
Yeah, for sure, seeing how they want to position and play around this, and honestly, I want Catapimbas to be just a little bit more aggressive, and you can see Inora's actually running it down on Danger right now, finding an opening.
Yeah, not gonna let KingKaiser sit and wait and find his spots like he has done all game so far. Barinoo gets the first kill. They take the Kinessa out. Pénny in some trouble here too. The Terminus has been caught. The all-in aggression is caught. Los Gados a bit off guard, but here the answer's back now. Finally, the Evie makes it to the backline, shuts down Pénny permanently. They can try and get back in and find the fight that they're looking for on the actual point. 33% in their favor, and Los Gados left licking their wounds.
Why did he res, Vitch? Why did he res?
I don't know.
No one on his team was there, and now he doesn't have that chance to retouch later. They're going to have to send someone without an ultimate in, and actually, they don't even want to give him a chance.
They're not going to. The Inara steps forward and finds the ultimate. Makoa cut down by Kúze, willing to commit the spite. In comes the Terminus, but as you mentioned, no reanimate available, so Pénny is out of there. The Moji can't do anything under the fire from PabloSchumacher this time, and I think Catapimbas have maybe finally figured this one out here, Kresnik. The pressure, Los Gados just didn't have an answer for it.
Crazy how being aggressive with a Raum comp really opens things up.
Yeah, no way, huh?
They're not actually zoning enough. They're going to have another retouch, but Ancient Reach gets used in the last second.
Yeah, Makoa makes it back in and will indeed drop down the ultimate to buy himself some time. The Terminus now back as well, but the Raum ultimate stuns him out, makes it easy to start returning some damage. Gonna dash in as well. Pénny has now been answered, but there's the ultimate. How does Kaiser find that one? That takes the Raum out of it. Zhin comes right back in though, finds a pretty critical kill with the spite of his own to keep the overtime ticking, but Catapimbas lock this one down and tie it up.
Those were some of the clutchest ultimates I've ever seen in a fight that still went the way that we expected.
That's crazy.
Even an Ice Storm at the last second to catch the Zhin after the whirl so he can't billow and be safe and get re-healed. Great by the Evie at the last minute, and I think that was actually what helped him clutch it up. That Zhin
I think that was huge, man. What a call, though, from Catapimbas to make that adjustment on that last fight to finally get aggressive and get into that back line. I think the problem was that they had been letting too much everything come to that Moji and letting her fight comfortably. That time they kind of pushed past her, and it worked much better.
That's how you have to deal with the Kinessa, and that's how you have to play with a Raum composition. You cannot wait. You have to help it out.
They cannot. It absolutely works out for them that time. We're going to let Dave and Gormizer, though, break it down a little bit more.
I appreciate it, Finch. Hello, Brazil. What games we've gotten here already. Another game of Moji. This time she grabs the L, but still a great showing for KingKaiser there. Gormizer, what'd you see there? I mean, the Moji, it had its moments. Couldn't find the win, though.
And that's, I think, the weirdest thing. KingKaiser did almost everything in his power to make that game go towards his team. I mean, 23, 10, and 18. Again, quick math, what is that, 32, maybe a little bit more on the other side, 34, that he's going to be able to kind of contribute to that. That's a huge amount that he's been able to come through. It's just massive amounts of damage, almost 200K, dude. And that's the losing team, by the way.
That's so unsatisfying that's not a clean 200,000, I have to say, but we'll call it 200,000 for KingKaiser. I mean, so much, of course, for good reason, of the focus is on this Moji. But you look at Zhin and what he was able to do, rushing that morale boost. The spikes were hitting consistently, finding their targets. And Evie as well. They both had middle 6 digits worth of damage themselves. So, yeah, they're not knocking on the door of that 200K. But they did enough to have their impact on this game.
It's the fact that they were both impactful. The spite, I think, is where my eyes go almost immediately because Zhin had a huge impact against the tanks of Los Gados. And it's like, okay, cool. You've got this Moji doing 200,000 damage that is absolutely annihilating everybody, 23 and 10. But it doesn't matter because you don't have a tank point on or tank pressure on the point. Like there's nothing you're getting out of this. The fact that you push it to 3-3, I think, is impressive. But they just did not have, I think, the awareness on the objective-oriented mindset they needed to capture that objective. And the biggest example I have is that reanimate at the end. He popped it with no one around, no one to be able to back him up, and it's just like, you're not going to win. Like, you could have had that for a retake. If you imagine that last fight, but now there's a Terminus in it,
Yep.
Guess who wins that? Not Catapimbas.
Well, there was a Terminus, and then he died, and then there wasn't a second Terminus right there at the end. It's really a tale of two different ultimate usages, kind of good and bad there, with Los Gados, namely the reanimate, but then so many good ultimates from Catapimbas locked that one down. That one was a great game. 7 points on Frog Isle is where we head there. I guess you have to ask, are you worried about Moji at all if you're Catapimbas at this point? KingKaiser plays it on Jag Falls, which is fine and normal and we'd expect it, but Frog Isle, not at all.
I will not say it's a normal pick for Frog Isle, but I will say that the theory of Moji can translate to Frog Isle. Like, it can translate to Bright Marsh, right?
Sure.
We don't always see it successful. Technically, we didn't see it successful even though we saw it successful there. It does not translate to Splitstone. I think if you lock in Moji, so there's one of two routes here. If you lock in Moji, it is because you are a one-trick Moji, and that is what you have, and Mojesus is very proud of you in his ranked games.
Yes.
Or you don't understand what's making her work, and you think it will still go well here. She has no verticality. I don't think she will work well on this map. Now that I've said all this, though, he's naturally going to lock it in and go 23 and 10 again.
It's absolutely going to get locked in. Well, back-to-back 20-kill games on the Moji. You have to ask. I agree, though. It's a bit step further from Jaguar Falls than even Frog Isle was. Viktor locked in here for them. I like the Viktor pick on this map. You know, you don't need all of that serious high mobility, lots of verticality when you're just going to be sitting back pouring out damage.
Yeah, I mean, get up there on balcony. If Androxus is up there, you can try to shoot him down.
Come on!
But ultimately, you're going to be looking at some standard damage from the Viktor. I'm not going to acknowledge it till it's locked in.
Yep, no way.
It's going to be interesting, though, to see how exactly they handle the Androxus. And we actually get a matchup that we saw earlier on this map when we started the day, which was Androxus versus Evie on the side, like lava side. Who's going to win it? And whichever one of them wins it is the one who will then take care of the other DPS, more or less. Androxus might have a little bit more difficult of a time dealing with Viktor than Evie has with Cassie. So it might still end up kind of flattening out, but it's definitely a battle of the flanks on the side.
Well, Gore, in a meta where everything has sort of shifted, you're looking at a Splitstone Quarry draft that looks exactly like I think it would have however many months ago when we were kind of looking at Worlds. Maybe some minus the Androxus is the main exception there. I can't wait to jump back into this one. 7 points on Frog Isle. Los Gados, Catapimbas. Let's break this tie.
It has been a really close set here so far. We're going to get our first glimpse at what Kaiser can do when he's not piloting the Moji. We already know 180,000 damage or something like that is standard for what he's going to be bringing, but what can he do when he is forced over to this Evie instead? These two flankers, you heard them talking about it. I think there's going to be a lot between this Androxus and this Evie determining how this match goes.
Yeah, for sure. Having that flank duel and being able to pressure the backline DPS on the high ground, forcing them down, which I think is a big part of it. When you have a backline up, controlling that little platform that looks over the point, the most important thing, I think, looking at this is that it also looks over the top of the quarry area, the area above where teams like to hold. Because if you can get a Ruckus there, if you can get if you can get your Androxus there, anything like that is going to be huge for spamming down and making a team feel just absolutely suffocated.
Kaiser is going to go right to the backline, put in some good damage on the Androxus, force the reversal out early, and keep him away. The Terminus taking a ton of free damage. He's onto the point first for Catapimbas, and they are the beneficiaries getting some early percentage, but it's divinö that takes down the Androxus early on. So they'll get some free time, but they don't have to worry about the damage raining from on high. divinö looking for good flanking position to try and come around, but I think the Terminus has already recognized he's kind of got to fall back. Los Gados now establishing some early position.
Well, this seems kind of fully wrapped, so having the flank position is going to be tough. Actually, the Androxus finds the Jenos, so maybe not paying attention to the spawn timers at all.
Just slow and steady, and Barinoo ends up getting shot down on that Terminus this game. KingKaiser and the Ruckus looking to find what damage they can, but a nice long-range shot pushes one out. Los Gados now up to 60% onto the point, largely uncontested as PabloSchumacher can't find his way onto the point either. divinö on the Ruckus keeping him zoned out, looking for the Androxus, but the Terminus right there to provide the backup and keep him standing. 93% though, someone's got to find a touch, and the Terminus finally gets in there.
Yeah, they sent him in, but now he can't help this Androxus on this side, but I'm not sure if he's going to need help with the Cassie coming in to get the kill.
That's perfect. They turned that one around quite nicely, and now the Androxus in perfect positioning to find a little bit more, forces the Evie back defensively, does find some decent healing, and that's it for EuSouOBixoVindo there as well. So Catapimbas have gotten positioning back onto the actual point, turning around, putting plenty of shots, but in comes the barrage from the Viktor. Los Gados want to try and hold on to this one, but 2 more quick kills coming for Catapimbas for them to hold on to the point. They're at 99%, but the Viktor able to find the shots for free.
Viktor's going to do so much damage here, but they're going to have to send someone in, and I honestly don't think they have it. I mean, Jenos there, but there's only so long he's going to be able to last. And I gotta give so many props to the pairing of the Terminus and the DPS there on the side. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be Cassie, it could be the Andy. Whoever's paired with him is going to be literally unkillable.
Yeah.
It's only, you have to wait out that timer before you can do any damage, and that duel is a guaranteed win for whoever gets paired with him.
Yeah, I'd argue that the Androxus flat out lost the duel before the Terminus showed up, right, and turned things around back in his favor. That goes to show how huge he was backing him up, as you said. Doesn't just have to be the Androxus. Person arm, though, comes out. Ruck is right there to be the answer, but he's already gotten the kill onto Kaiser, taking the Evie out of the equation. Catapimbas now set up to try and make some kind of push happen with this payload as a double kill comes through for the Andro.
The control the Andra can have on this map is insane. Any verticality that lets you go over the wall right behind where he is right now lets you kind of just choose any fight that you want. Getting able to push past that first choke point, one of the hardest to break on this map, is a big deal, and having ultimates that just have AoE clear on that whole area, being able to fight someone and run away is huge.
We haven't even talked about it though, but Catapimbas must feel like they're fighting without the weights on now. They have to worry about this Moji, right? It must be nice to just have an Androxus and just go look for some free damage, not have to worry about where this Moji's at. Finally, decent defense, but he catches out KingKaiser on the Evie, brings him back, and PabloSchumacher gets an easy kill. Offense still slightly favored here, at least for now. But every time there's even kill trades showing up in favors defense, Pénny gets one, though, to shut down this Androxus, and Los Gados should be able to push him back.
That was a unreal prediction by PabloSchumacher there, catching that Evie blink. It doesn't end up turning into much of anything, but he bought so much time, they just couldn't win the fight in main, and this is bad for Catapimbas. Losing this choke, letting them reset up top here.
Right.
They can't get surrounded on the side, but they actually aren't watching the back, so just the pressure from Pablo is forcing them all to run away.
And they have to give up a lot of that positioning you were just talking about. The Los Gados had. Kúze gets one, but answered back by KingKaiser and Pénny to make it a 2-for-1 in favor of the defense here this time. Catapimbas might have already lost their one opportunity to try and make a push happen. Divinö has found his way into the backline too to put in some decent damage and break up this cluster that Catapimbas are trying to form. The Cassie getting protected by the Terminus quite well, but they can't break through and actually make it to the payload.
But they are forcing the Ruckus to keep re-choosing his fights. Every time that Siphon comes up, he dashes. He doesn't want to fight it because he knows it's going to be too hard to break. But they might be too distracted in the front. This Ruckus and Evie are free.
Makes it to the back line, does Divinö, and that's iMäd taken out of the equation. The Ying and the healing removed early on. He turns back to deal with the Androxus, keeps an eye on him in the sky perfectly, and the Viktor working together. They take down the Andro. A very difficult push now for Catapimbas to try and find a way to complete here at this point. I think Los Gados have done enough for the successful defense.
And 10 ultimates up right now, which is actually kind of surprising to see in a 1-0 push. You normally expect it to take a little bit more time. This was that triple the Androxus got a little bit earlier, and you can see again, like just choosing your fights exactly where you want to, being able to get away with that reversal, have potentially 6 dashes to be able to just rotate out and re-choose the fights. I gotta say, I love how Androxus builds have changed too. Looking at this, that new ammo card, Quick Draw, gives him so much more potential in 1v1 fights. Plus, it did actually get rid of a card that some players had been using since closed beta. The card that gives you resets on hitting shots, resets on your reversal for hitting shots with your revolver. It was huge for his sustain. It was a big part of the kit, letting him be super mobile, and now they're playing off of the raw movement speed, and it almost is a more grounded Androxus where you have to be a lot more careful with your dashes.
And Vindo, I think, has done a great job of that. I think he can also afford to do that because he's getting such great cover from this Terminus like all game long, right? So he gets a little bit of extra survivability in that regard. Way in the back line, though, the Khan has found himself a target. It's the Viktor removed early on from this fight, favoring out Catapimbas, who have been looking much, much better here so far. Now they don't have to contend with that Moji anymore. But divinö ends up getting shot down too. It's PabloSchumacher that gets the credit on that one, and they've got great percentage starting to build up.
How does he get away with that? How does he mount straight up behind the Viktor and get a stun on him and get the Ice Storm forced out on him? There's perfect peel from the team too, as Kaiser has no idea the Andro's there.
It drops the ultimate, the Accursed Arm sets up for an easy cleanup kill onto KingKaiser, and now up over 70% for Catapimbas the Ruckus. I don't know if he's going to be able to find any way to find some kind of touch on this one. Dashes in finally and makes his way in, but immediately waiting for him in the Andro and the Terminus. That have been a great combo all game long. The Barik now showing up too to delay, but 99% for Catapimbas, and a desperate defense from Los Gados to try and keep this one going. The overtime ticking down, and this should be a mid-cap here for us.
Yeah, this barrage isn't going to change much of anything. And you can see why Khan is such a high priority off-tank right now. Just the presence that he brings right now, even on a map that shouldn't be this good for him. He suffers in very vertical maps anytime he can get shot at from above.
Right.
He's against an Evie, and he's just absolutely dominating all of these lanes, even now surviving through all of this with the help from his Term.
That's pretty nuts, because a bit of a botched initiation there from him, but he ends up surviving it just fine and making it back out. Kind of to your point, look how far they've been able to push off this initial capture. They still got the full 2 minutes basically to work with, but divinö has made his way to the back line, finds the Cassie. She buys herself just barely enough time though to survive divinö's pressure and should be able to stick around here for this push, but the Androx's pressure continues yet again from Vindo. Doesn't find a kill for it, but they're able to find the positioning they want.
It was a defensive ult just to spam up top, and now the Illusory Rift is going to be their go button.
And Ruckus taking quite a bit of damage, finally recognizes where the Androxus is shooting him from as the payload comes around this final corner. The Viktor trying to peek, but you don't win this one. Vindo finds some pretty nasty shots, get to the back line, and reversal buys him time to try and sustain back up. This has been nasty from Catapimbas here so far. Kaiser finally gets a kill into this Ying, but Kúze responds by making the Evie pay.
He lived with 6 health. It was 5 more than he needed to get out of that situation. There were so many ways he could have gotten chipped, but he manages to avoid all of them, and their health is terrible, and they finally see it, and divinö dives.
divinö gets a double kill for it, does a good job getting Kúze and Vindo, and this should finally, for the very first time, slow down this push from Catapimbas. Mika finally gets some room to breathe. The con has been on him all game long. They take down Schumacher and Pénny these last couple of kills, and Gados could finally step forward and set up a defense.
A big weakness of that push that Catapimbas had was holding over in that elevator room. It was good at the start of the push, but as that war of attrition kind of kept going, they were poking and prodding at each other. The Ying has to see you to heal you, and there was no way for them to get healed up. Everyone below half, and Los Gados just pounced.
Los Gados, particularly divinö on that Ruckus, right? He spotted some weakness, got in there and made it work, and he's not done yet. Finds Vindo, who's been a nightmare on the Androxus all game long, takes him out of this one. PabloSchumacher, divinö gonna try and dive past him as well on this con and shred through him. He absolutely will. divinö showing up for him here on this Ruckus on this last defense. Catapimbas with 3 seconds left. I don't know if they're gonna be able to convert this one. Should be yet another successful defense for Los Gados to tie us up 2-2.
It's not an easy map to push.
It's not.
So I think they have to be looking at their mid fights. They have to be figuring out what's going wrong. Los Gados clearly don't have what they need, and this was it. You could see only Khan healthy because he heals himself. Both DPSs just can't get healed. Everybody in there. Where's Ying? Not able to help them whatsoever. I think they need to at least keep an eye on the back line here. They, like I said, last mid, the Khan just mounted through.
Yeah.
He just rode straight onto that Viktor.
Yeah, he took the
stunned
Viktor out
him.
first. That was the first thing that happened instantaneously in that fight.
That should be the last thing that happens. Your Viktor should be in spawn by the time the rest of your team is dead, sprinting away, unless he has to drop down to help in a fight.
Right, and unfortunately they weren't able to start that fight off quite on the terms that they would have liked. So we'll come into this next mid-fight 2-2, and keep an eye on this con, on PabloSchumacher in particular. Is he going to be able to worm his way back there and punish this Viktor here yet again? Not this time. divinö ends up coming the right direction to get him off the mount and slow down that initial push.
They're actually just using the pressure of the overpower to push them back, and it's been working so far, but they're too distracted.
Evie gets all the way to the back line, but it's Vindo the one that finds the first kill. EuSouOBixoVindo has been removed. Kaiser loses his trade, but the Androxus somehow gets enough dashes off. How does he always buy enough time? Can't make it back to the shield from the con, though. divinö finally punishes him and at least gets that kill, but look at the percentage from Catapimbas. They have dominated these mid-fights.
That was actually a great counter to the overpower with the Hexafire, but that's all it does. It just counters it. Now he's stuck on an island.
Does not get a lot of additional value out of that one. Does finally get the kill into PabloSchumacher, and divinö has been a hero so far for Los Gados to keep the fight going. KingKaiser finds one, Mika finds another to start flipping through the numbers of Catapimbas. They take down the Terminus here as well, and I don't think Barinoo wants to commit the reanimate here, so finally Los Gados can start building up a bit of percentage of their own.
It's nice seeing reanimate saved at sane times.
Yeah,
I will say, because if he had spent that there, I don't know how I would have been feeling right now. It's good to have it for this retouch, but if they get any dismounts, they might not be able to, but no one goes aggressive. Even Evie's not forward enough to knock them off the mounts.
Does get a couple of shots into the Terminus, but he's here and onto the point, as is the Khan Barrage being considered. He's just going to drop them onto the actual point, but in comes the Androxys over the top. Not going to give Mika time to find Mini. iMäd does end up falling, but Kúze gets Pénny as well to remove the Barik from the equation. It's overtime, ticking in Catapimbas' favor. In comes the Ruckus, finding the touch, but gets grabbed immediately. A double now for Kúze, make it a triple kill as they start to shut down Los Gados and should be able to win yet another mid-fight.
Maybe we should be seeing more Cassie.
Yeah, maybe.
She seems
She's good,
pretty
huh?
okay. I've noticed that so far. But it's just, I think it's a good composition for the Cassie. Playing into the Ruckus, that used to be one of the hardest counters that you expected to see when you pick Cassie. When you pick Ruckus, you expect to see Cassie on the other side 100% of the time. And you can see why. I mean, she's just shredding into him right now with that record. If you know, almost already down, has to give up that space. Those DPSs are kind of left alone, but I think they might have done enough damage to buy themselves a little bit more time.
This pick onto divinö is huge. He's done so much work for Los Gados so far, and Barinoo takes him out of the equation, but they end up losing Vindo for it on the Androxys, but the Khan has been a man on a mission, finds one more, pulls him back to the team, and Kúze gets another kill, this time on to Kaiser, so they can keep this push going a little bit longer. iMäd is back in here to keep the team topped up too. This push certainly not over yet for Catapimbas.
I gotta say, I want to say highlights to Barinoo. I don't know how his stats are going to look at the end of the game, but I feel like every time someone's in danger, I'm just seeing purple on the screen. They're being saved by Barinoo, always in the right place. Great synergy from that team. Now that they've gone through the hyperbolic time chamber of Moji, there's really they're not as concerned about that anymore. And that illusory rift was a perfect save for the team. They back up, they managed to resustain, reheal, and they got that hardest choke point out of the way.
Ying with over 150,000 healing up to this point. It's been a great game for iMäd, and they've not been able to pressure very well here so far. Full-on contestation on this payload. Catapimbas trying to find a way to push past this next choke point. Androxys takes to the sky. Does find some decent damage, but probably not as much quite as he was looking for. Can't get back there. He wants this Evie. He wants to take KingKaiser out of it. Waiting patiently, and no way for her to get out of that one. That's a critical pick.
It was a good peel there. The Ruckus just isn't a tank that can save someone else, and they have to give it up. But at the very least, for Gados, they managed to get a trade.
Androxys forces two members, though, to turn their heads back towards him. Pénny gets the cleanup kill onto Barinoo, though, to take him out of the equation, at least for now. As the defense now started to fully come to fruition for Los Gados, Catapimbas kind of stalling a bit on this push.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to spend anything because there's a risk of a 3-3, and you want every resource you can possibly have going into that final fight, potentially. They are still holding here with Ruckus Evie, and I like this position because they can dive anywhere. Plus, the Khan, the last person you should be contesting this, he's the worst at height differentials.
And that might shut that one down, losing PabloSchumacher there that early, and as you said, not wanting to commit any resources. Kaiser comes out to force Androxys back, and indeed we find ourselves on yet another 3-3. But this can happen, I feel like, sometimes on this map. Even with strong mid-fights, it's hard to get the actual conversion on that payload and get that two-point push. So instead, we'll have one more point fight. And to be fair, if you're Catapimbas, I don't think you can feel bad about that. They've won every one so far.
Win every mid-fight, win the game. If you can't push,
exactly right.
You could be, if you're a team that wins every push, or if you're a team that wins every payload side, if they played each other, the team that wins every point would win.
Yeah, they'd win every time.
Every single time, because that's what really matters at the core of the game. If you just have these mid-fights, where you're positioning, where you're going down. And clearly Catapimbas do, but I feel like it's just been big, glaring weaknesses that Gados can fix every time. The Gados just needs to be a little bit more aware about what Catapimbas are trying to do. Is it KingKaiser just calling a little bit more? Is it him playing a little more defensive? Not sure, but with everybody kind of stacking on this one side, they're making things a little bit easier for them.
He found some decent shots, and EuSouOBixoVindo gets the first kill credit. They take Kúze on this Cassie out of the equation early on. A big pull, though, and that's going to be it for that Jenos. They take EuSouOBixoVindo right back out of it. Mika, not to be outdone, though, gets one kill himself. PabloSchumacher still alive on the back of this, but look at the percent for Los Gados. They're all the way up to 63%. Even if they lose this fight, they'll be back in with a decent touch on the back of it, but they are not losing. Barrage committed onto the Cassie for the double kill from Mika. They shut him down early. That forces Terminus up just to find a touch here early. What has gone so wrong? Los Gados suddenly got a decent point fight.
They didn't call Viktor's positioning at all, so when they backed up, they just walked into a Luminary boosted Viktor, and you never want that.
Dino with the Hexafire onto the backline. See you later, iMäd. See you later. divinö as well. The kill feed lighting up now for Los Gados. You might only need 1 point fight in a whole set to win it, and that's what Los Gados did here, taking the set with just one win, one mid fight that they won. That's crazy.
It's the only one that matters.
They won the one that matters, exactly right.
Win the 3-3, figure it out. Again, like I said, it was a glaring weakness every time, and then Catapimbas, maybe they just got a little too excited. They thought they had it on lock. No one calls the Viktor. They all kite out to point. Andro thinks he's safe, dashes out. Viktor's waiting. Viktor's waiting just to tear him down.
And this fight starts off with a really critical pick from them as well this time. Good damage comes out from this Evie. We didn't talk a ton about Kaiser this game because, I mean, he put up 100,000 less damage. I guess we just ignore that, but certainly still an impressive performance from him. That pick was perfect to start that mid fight off for them. Dave and Dulcin, though. Not Dave and Dulcin. Gore and Dulcin, the one standing by. We'll have them break it down.
It is Dulcin still here to break down game number 3. Splitstone Corey, much the same as Frog Isle. This one goes the distance, 7 points long. These two teams could not be closer matched. Dulcin alongside Dave here to break down game number 3.
Look, I'm just going to say it outright and make sure everyone knows, but we couldn't have a Dave and a Dulcin. There's too much handsome in the world. We couldn't handle it.
You know, blush shows up more under the lights here, and you're going to make me go red in the face.
White lights. Yeah.
That's right. I appreciate you, Gore, nonetheless. But let's talk about Splitstone Corey a little bit.
Yeah.
Another lengthy game between these two. No Moji this time around, but Los Gados find the win.
No Moji, and so we finally got a game where KingKaiser isn't the highlight of the game, so we can look at something other than him. Granted, his Evie did do really well that game.
Yeah.
But the last fight, a lot of it's on that Viktor and kind of on that Cassie. And the Cassie, it's more of a she got hit by the barrage because they didn't push the Viktor out than anything. But you go the point fight before that, that Cassie is probably the reason they win that one. I mean, 13, 8, 14, she did really well. 16, 12, and 10 for the Andro. The problem is they couldn't stack up enough deaths there for Mika.
Yep.
So that's 16, 6, and 13. It just stands tall and proud.
Yeah, the 16, 6, and 13, obviously the one that I think stands most out. Kind of answered back by Kúze, a little bit close on that Cassie slash line. But I think that this was a great all-around team performance from everyone on Los Gados. Where previously we're highlighting the 20-odd kills game in and game out from KingKaiser on that Moji. I think that top to bottom, you know, the Ruckus I figured would have a pretty big impact on this game, and I liked what I saw.
I mean, he was able to get to the backline several times where he had an impactful kill. Again, the last fight comes to my mind where he got back there to get a double kill, I believe, where it's just small setups like that made a huge difference. There were moments where maybe he got caught out a few times and you had to question whether or not it helped the team or hurt the team. But I think he more often than not was beneficial in a lot of his positioning and a lot of his play styles. There were the only moments I can think where it was a detriment was like, you're the only guy left to be able to dive in there. But if you give him dives like that, he'll take them every single day of the week.
I love that moment where you pull out the Hexafire, suddenly there's an Androxus with his reversal up in front of you, and you're panicking because
I don't want that back. No.
I love the twitch. It worked out. He twitches backwards, gets the kill, and then turns back to try to chip away some damage. I just started laughing in that moment when they were calling the game. I am panicking if I'm a Ruckus that's suddenly pouring Hexafire damage into a reversal. But Los Gados looking good this time around on Splitstone Corey. This one's hard to call, Gore, because we came into this set talking about how these are some names that we're all starting to learn, and you can't really favor one team over the other. I still don't think you can.
No.
I think they're very closely matched.
The fact that we've had 2 in a row that were 7 points, I think, is more of a showcase than that. And that's with both teams having high performers that come through with it, right? It's not just, oh, hey, this guy, happened to pop off this one game. It's like, no, they are consistently doing well every single time. And it's opened up the doors. I mean, 0.7 conversations coming into play. Potentially 5 games coming into play, honestly, if they keep trading like this.
And especially in a group where, as you pointed out, there's only kind of that one team that you're like, okay, they're going to make it through. I mean, if this is how contested this entire group is in Brazil, this is a long day of Paladins for these guys to try to qualify fully on through the PPC. But picks and bans for Serpent Beach. Game number 4 kicking off here. Jenos taken off the board. Not surprising there. Raum and Torvald.
Stranger.
2 champions, mainly Torvald that we haven't seen at all today. Raum a little bit, but that's going to leave Inara open for first pick.
Inara for first pick, but honestly, if I'm looking at how Ruckus just did and we're on Serpent Beach, I'm looking for Ruckus here, honestly. I think he escalates in priority. Again, maybe not something that comes to mind as like much. In Europe, I see Ruckus, I take Ruckus. In Brazil, it's maybe take it or leave it a little more, but he's still pretty high on that tier list, I would argue.
And despite a 100% win rate, I mean, there's maybe an asterisk on that. The 17% pick rate, 0% ban rate in Atlas. So talking about differences in priority, a champion that certainly brings plenty of utility into his kit, but we have just not seen Atlas all that often.
Who knew that, essentially a map-wide wall of damage stoppage.
Yeah.
And good CC that affects your team and rewinds them is good. Plus, he's hit scan, he has good charge damage, and yeah, it's nerfed from where it was before. I think realistically it comes down to the fact that a lot of these off-tanks are essentially just finding their home, right? Like, where does Fernando fit into the mix? Where does Ruckus fit into the mix? Where does Raum fit into the mix? Where now does Atlas fit into it? And I think this is a good map for him. Again, I love a lot of what he does. I think the weakest part of his kit does come down to his ult, but granted, considering how strong everything else is, I think that's worth it.
Catapimbas draft themselves two of the biggest hit scan presences in the game between Viktor and Androxus. Fernando maybe jumps out quickly at me for Los Gados here. No con in this game to kind of pseudo counter him out. Do you like him?
I love him. I think as long as you're hitting well-timed Immortals, it's going to stop this Atlas, this Viktor, and this Androxus from getting as much done as they'd like to.
We've had back-to-back 7-point games. Will Game 4 have more of the same? Let's go to Finch to find out.
I got a feeling that we're likely in for a little bit more of the same here as we move into Serpent Beach. A bit surprised. It was Catapimbas that first picked that Inara, passing on the Furia, and it manages to make its way back to them yet again. I think this Ying, though, they've had some really good games out of it here so far, so maybe they're trusting that one yet again. But every time iMäd has a nice inflame, I'm going to be thinking about those picks and bans.
Yeah, I mean, I was just more surprised about the Buck first.
That is surprising also.
Over Furia, I mean, I could see the utility between having the damage reduction whenever you want to dive. But, God, with Androxus up after the performance we saw, I feel, last game from a very strong... I think it was a strong Androxus play.
It was,
just constant rotation, having that verticality is even more important on this map. And Buck has a little bit, but maybe they're just paying more attention to the mid-fight where Buck's leap will make it to the high ground, and he'll be able to get away a lot more from some pressure.
At this point, though, I let Kaiser play what Kaiser wants to play, man. He tells me what he's feeling here at this point. A little bit of trouble there on the point as the Inara starts to take some extra damage. divinö drops the shield, and Mika finds the first kill this engagement, but divinö does end up turning. The shield turns with him, and immediately he ends up getting answered. But looks like we have a brief pause coming out here for divinö, so let's let Los Gados and the boys figure everything out. We'll get right back into the action here. But I know that you were saying that you thought that you could see some Buck having some value here, particularly around that leap. What do you want to see here from as we're right back into it?
Well, I want to see him exactly where he is right now. I was going to say, taking the enemy high ground. It's the biggest thing he can do, because he can jump up there, land, get a little bit of damage, heal himself right away, and kite out, but didn't get it back up in time because they re-pushed right away and isolated him with the wall.
Yeah, Kaiser's been taken out of there. Schumacher's the one that gets the credit for that. So Vindo and the boys now in decent positioning. They already gave up quite a bit of percentage to Los Gados, but after winning a couple fights, they can get right back in there. But Vindo has taken too much damage, and by too much, I mean all of it. Mika finds him to finish that job off, and they push that Androxus back out. Now leading in the percentage, finding a decent sight line here to take some shots up top and force back some of the back line for Catapimbas. Now can flank the Inara, get some free damage onto her that she's not expecting, but the percentage building right back up, nearly tying this up.
You can actually tell the huge amount of damage that the Cassie is doing because she had ultimate already. This is her second ultimate that she's charging right now, but really hard to track an Androxus dash in circles around you like that.
That's not a fight that you're meant to win. Mika ends up falling. Vindo gets the doubles. He takes down Pénny as well, and Catapimbas are the ones that cap the objective to start things off. They even get a nice kill onto divinö towards the end, so they should be able now to make a pretty decent push. And you've got the Androxus, you've got all this verticality on your side here too. You've got the Atlas at that front line. They should be able to do pretty good work with when they're the ones pushing payload.
I would say so, especially since they have the setback potential. They'll pull people away, get the card a little bit further. The wall also reaching up top is a big deal for the people that are pushing. Atlas won't be able to get up there as easily, but he can still support you even from the cart. He can do it from such safe positions. I noticed Barinoo tried to get up there, decided to drop back to the cart because it's just so dangerous for a support to be pushing under all that pressure.
That's the Inflame committed. Vindo tries to use it, but gets punished the second he gets back there on the Androxus. But Kaiser's been taken out in the Buck, too. I don't know, they've gotten a ton of value out of that Buck, at least so far. Big ultimate, though, from Barinoo. They shut down Pénny as well as Kúze gets that kill. Catapimbas trying to make this push happen. But now the Cassie's back. Mika up top, trying to rein in the shots, but really cannot find much. Has to fall back. Look at this flank, but she punishes it perfectly. Kúze gets shut down on the Viktor.
I'd like to restate my point. Why aren't we seeing more Cassie?
I don't know.
That was against Viktor. Just sprinting away. I think Viktor could have taken that fight, but he's scared of the damage coming out of Cassie. Kaiser has a good position here, and I don't know about this ult. This accursed arm, it's not going to find anything. It's just going to scare him off for a little bit.
Does not find a ton of value, but you're right. It does push Kaiser right back at the very least, so that's about the most value it gets out of it. Vindo takes to the sky. Wouldn't have minded having a cursed arm there, I wouldn't bet, for that one, as he found two people up top, but still gets the kill in the Pénny. That's a double now for Kúze to open up this push a little bit more, and maybe with this decent positioning, knowing at least one is trapped up top, turns around, and there's Kaiser waiting on him with the Buck. Does get some healing, but this payload's almost been pushed in now here, Kresnik.
Kaiser's actually drawing so much attention in the backline, and they can't help now that the tanks are respawning. Oh, she's actually not contesting. This is huge if they lose someone else.
Almost able to find this kill to shut her down, but not quite able to take Mika out of that one. So Mika's going to look for the push. Can't quite get the Atlas entirely off the map. So the Fernando starts moving in to look for the flames to try and burn him back just a bit more. Mika up top is going largely unanswered. Finds the shots of the Pablo. Pénny gets Barinoo as well to shut him down, and that might be it for the push. They've only got another 13 seconds. They're on the full retreat. Los Gados might have done enough.
Yeah, they just burned down the tanks, and there's really nowhere for you to hide as a tank on this map. You're going to have one person up top, one person on the far side. He made an attempt. I'll give him that.
Right?
Confidence is very important in a game like this when you're talking with your team, getting things going. I thought that they had a great opportunity there. There was only DPS alive. They had the Atlas's stasis field up. I mean, there was no way for the DPS to answer anything, but I think they just weren't pushing the cart the whole time. It wasn't close enough for that wall to have been a threat. Maybe they had to hold off a little bit to get it up at a time where it would have been a little bit more efficient.
You're right, though. I mean, how many fights do you start off with a double kill from that Vixie from Kúze on the Viktor onto the front line, and you still can't make much more happen on the back end of it? The problem was, man, Mika was posted up top, wasn't he, man? He had great positioning on that Cassie, and anyone who was kind of sticking their head out a little bit too far, he made sure he shut them down. So move into this next mid-fight 1-1.
Yeah, and I want to see how they want to play with this Buck again, because he did the right thing at the start, but then way overstayed his welcome. he didn't have the cooldowns he needed to live, and Buck is really just live or die. With bulk up, live or die by your recovery cooldown. You need it to be important, but it looks like they want to look somewhere else completely this time. Way more defensive, and I don't think you can do that to an Atlas wall.
Early barrage does finally commit a couple of shots. A lot of the time, you can get plenty of value out of that just by kind of channeling it, even if you have to cancel it later on. So that'll be the full reset. He'll have to wait on having that ultimate back. And Drox is taken to the sky too. Try and force back a couple of more. Vindo gets some good shots there, but no actual kills comes to his credit. But Schumacher can't make it around the corner. divinö catches him out just barely, completes that kill, and suddenly the front line now starting to fall for Catapimbas.
When that I guess that defensive play ended up working out when they just can't get anything out of it from the wall. Once that wall is down, that's a 20-second cooldown that they have an eternity to punish.
You're right. Kúze catches Kaiser, can't find a way back out of there. Pénny took a spill recently as well, too. He's only recently back up amongst the land of the living, and Catapimbas are uncontested on this point at 72% now, a measly 3% there for Los Gados, and they can't find much way back in. Kúze with the Inflame now ticking as well is starting to let the damage through, sending the Barik packing. Pénny has had a really tough time in here this game, and the barrage committed. They want to take Kaiser out of this right away. He's got to fall back.
He takes all three because of the DR from the recovery, and they didn't have a chance to contest. I think that Inflame could have actually done more. I think it was a little bit close in the side of Gados. Kúze was destroying them with damage, and then the Inflame came in and he killed a Ying illusion.
Well, successful cap now. That's all he got out of that one. Well, successful cap now. Catapimbas are going to move forward. They get one kill onto Kaiser thanks to excellent work by Kúze, and Droxus being piloted by Vindo, buying a ton of time here as well as Barinoo gets the last kill onto Pénny. They do eventually end up losing their Viktor, but this is a ton of free time they've been able to get to push this payload up.
They need to take upper as soon as possible, and this is the last thing they need to have happen. This position right here, the Oasis Temple, teams have a bunch of different names for it, but You have to get that if you want to win this push on the offense. Your backline goes there, and they're uncontested up on that high ground. You need to keep that going for your team, or else you're just going to get free-fired by whatever backline the other team has.
Gados have bought themselves a little bit of time. If there's anything this team has proven to us, it's that they can absolutely just defend 3 times in a row and win one mid-fight, right? So this is certainly not doom and gloom for them at any point. They got to keep this Catapimbas team on their back foot. If you're Catapimbas now, you know that you probably got to find a contest or an actual payload conversion, because this other team will beat you. They catch out the Androxus quite nicely. Divinö had few options there. Vindo and Kúze both getting a kill, but the Androxus does eventually end up falling. Tell that to the payload, though, as it continues to march ruthlessly forward. Catapimbas have decent positioning here for Kúze as well, finding decent shots that no one can answer back. But now he's going to worry about the Cassie. She pokes her head out. iMäd ends up dropping, and that might stop the push for Catapimbas.
The idea of the exile was good, but it wasn't just executed the way that it had to be. They exiled people that were contesting. That's the last thing you do. That gives them free time to be alive and doing what they want to do, but getting a little bit too aggressive here. Maybe one trade, but it's still for 2 on the other side.
You're right. I mean, it's hard for on the offense for these trades to be working effectively for you. The Androxus dash is in again, like we saw towards the end of last game. Not quite as dire straits here now. They've still got 30 seconds with which to work. Pénny is still on cooldown for a little while longer too, so can't quite help out this fight. Fernando doesn't even have the shield. He's just taking free damage here at this point. But Mika comes back up, finds the shots on the Schumacher. This Cassie has gone unchecked.
You have to control the backlines on this map, whether they're holding up here in the Oasis or next to the spawn. Either way, it will see everything that you need to keep controlled. So they're just not giving it enough. Yeah, they can't do anything because of this one position. It covers the entire last point.
You're exactly right, man. Androxus would have, were it not for this Cassie, have had decent positioning just now when he poked his head out. Instead, he immediately gets shut down. Kaiser does find 1 kill, though, on divinö to shut him down. That's a lot of the damage that's removed. It'll be a while before we're going to see him back here again. Mika's still standing, even though he took a ton of damage. Should be able to put in good damage onto this Inara, and I think that this is it. Catapimbas are done with the push for now. Los Gados defend successfully, and we're tied up 2-2.
Serpent Beach is one of the hardest one of the hardest maps in the game to push. 100, bar none. You have to go under so much. There's every single area you have to walk that cart is on the lowest of low ground possible.
Right.
And they can come from behind you super easily with that new ledge area, the top left from the pusher perspective that Catapimbas have been having to see, able to just free fire from up there. It is so difficult, especially since Barik's shield doesn't cover above him. Nando's shield doesn't cover above him. There's so many chances for them to just poke over these tanks, burn them down. At the very least, saved a couple ultimates, I believe. Only Inflame was spent in those last moments, so they have a little bit more resources to spend at the start of this fight.
Well, we're about to kick off yet another mid-fight. I'm still not so sure, Kresnik, if we've seen quite enough out of this Buck to where I'm thinking first pick overall for your team, right? The second pick overall in the whole draft first for the team. But again, Kaiser's kind of earned this, I think, to the point where we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt until we see something else. He's made some decent fights, though. This could potentially be what we were asking for as he moves in to try and shut down this Inara very early on. He does exactly that. Barinoo has been removed, and exactly what you want from your Buck.
Took so much pressure, though. That's the Inara Furia coming in fruition there. You can see all that damage they had to soak up, an entire Buck ultimate, and actually able to peel back too and kill the Andy.
Yeah, Mika is the one that gets that kill on this Cassie. It's a much better fight from Los Gados. All of a sudden, I'm not so sure about this Immortal, though, coming out from the Fernando. But hey, to each their own. The Inara trying to force her way back in, but at this point, it's just barely to find a desperate touch. Barinoo ends up grinding that kill. The Viktor gonna try and drop the barrage, but now the Buck's in the back line starting to wreak some havoc. Decent healing. He actually loses that trade. Kúze is the one that gets the kill for it. Vindo's still up as well. Overtime might be ticking, but I think Catapimbas want to make their way in, finding some decent shots from the Androxus, trying to find some kind of touch, and they put divinö down as well.
In a perfect position. That was exactly what you need your exile to be. It forces them all back into a corner, and it takes the DPS out of the fight. That was perfect, but they didn't have the cap time at the beginning. So they're going to have to, they have a chance to retake on the side of Gados, and they're not really that forward. They do get the dismount at the last second, but look how far back they are. They're just hoping to play the blender strategy where everyone walks into the point and just gets melted to pieces.
Los Gados will have one chance to get in there and make one more touch to extend this fight out a little bit further. Vindo gets the first kill of this fight, though, on the Androxus, but he ends up getting traded back out by Kaiser. The barrage is available, and that damage comes in pretty well. Catapimbas continue to be the only ones capping points around here as they go up 3-2 and are in favorable positioning on the back fight. They get 3 kills, making a double for Kúze, and keep right on pushing.
The fact that it went to overtime earlier made it a little easier as well. The longer the point is in overtime, the faster it'll drain. So that first overtime was fast overtime, and I don't think they had the replacement ready. What is this? This is perfect. Exactly what they have to do. I'm being serious.
I know.
They have to take this high ground.
And just exact positioning where the Cassie caused so many problems for them last game. Pénny ends up falling early on. Great wall from this Inara, but the buck comes raining in from Kaiser, finds the first kill in the Kúze, and wants this one onto the Inara as well. Barinoo ends up getting shut down. Nowhere for him to go. Los Gados are finally able to make the defense they need.
It was so good, but the illusory rift coming out from the other side meant that they can't win that fight. Furia needs line of sight to be able to heal, and there's basically one tiny angle she's going to be able to take from the far right looking through one door. The healing advantage was just not there. And the inflame wasn't up either, so they didn't have the chance to potentially outweigh the healing with even more damage.
Now they have to walk into the same wood chipper of Mika in this positioning that they've had to deal with all set, and they just have not had an answer to it up until now. But a chance to potentially break through. If Catapimbas can, they can stop Los Gados from even getting a chance at another mid-fight here. As they do step quite far forward, divinö gets an early kill on the Vindo to take the Androxus out. A pretty important pick here for them. They're trying to get back to this Furia as well. Decent shots from Mika. divinö takes down one. Mika takes down the other one in the form of Kúze, and that's going to stall this push out yet again.
The Nando ult was huge too, and he has enough time to build another ultimate. Him not going down meant that they had to keep focusing him, not focus Mika up on that high ground, and that's what they have to be doing. Honestly, the Nando's not doing that much damage. Just look away and deal with it. I think they're going to have to start doing that, but with Barik there right next to him, doing almost equivalent damage to this backline with how much he can pull off in a fight between his turrets and himself, I think they just need to swap their priorities up a little bit.
Man, did they really need to get that first push that successfully? I mean, because they are stalling here yet again. Inara trying to keep them pushed back, but Mika yet again finds favorable trades. Kúze ends up dropping as Kaiser cleans up all that poke damage the Cassie put out. They don't have an answer to this positioning, Kresnik, and so the arrows keep running in freely. I think that's it for yet another push, another successful defense here from Los Gados as Mika finds another double.
So now think about this. What do you do on the offense, right? They all go into that orange area because they want to push out Mika, but no one's watching the ledge all the way up behind them. Do they leave their Viktor all the way back on mid just to look at that door and then, oh, hey, we broke through? Viktor has to go a mile to get to the objective. He's not going to be anywhere nearby, and that gives them a huge chance to lose the fight. They have to take a 4v5 just because of how powerful the defender's advantage is.
Yeah, this positioning has been so strong from Los Gados. They've not made it easy, but you don't get to defend this time. It all comes down in a 3-3 to this one last point fight. And in these point fights, who is your eye on in particular here, Kresnik, that you feel like is going to be the big make or break?
I think for Catapimbas, Kúze's been doing a great job, and I think Pablo had an amazing fight last round. It was rough at the start with when he spent the wall, but the exile at the end, I thought was used very effectively. It forced them all back so much. And still having that up, if they can find another good use for one of the hardest ults in the game, that could be a game changer.
Androxus goes right to the sky, but get answered back perfectly. EuSouOBixoVindo gets the kill, but he was taking shots from the Cassie there as well. An excellent defense from the team as they do a great job pressuring him out from the sky. And now Los Gados are in position. 36% was built up by Catapimbas, but the ones now controlling the mid is all Los Gados. Anyone getting shades of that last set where they defended 3 times in a row and then just won 1 point fight. It's all that you need. Barinoo's right nearby though and ready to start stepping in. The Inflame is there too. This is the moment for Catapimbas to move in. Ultimate at point blank range, doesn't get much, but iMäd does shut down divinö. This might be what they needed either way.
He connected it on the stairs instead of the wall, so it managed to block the seismic crash. If he aimed a little bit higher, it could have helped. They still get the retake anyway, but with that kill, now they have a chance to flood back into the point.
Los Gados have got to hurry in though. 90% now for Catapimbas. They're in firm control. They get the shutdown to Vindo, and no one's able to make it back in. Catapimbas gets the victory. Not this time, they say, as they close this one out.
I would recommend getting on the point.
Yes, that would help.
Yeah, it would. I think that is my prescription for this game.
Your official analysis.
Los Gados, my analysis. Get on the objective and have a second touch. I think it's important. I think they had the Cassie planned to roll in, but the Furia beam stunned her and she wasn't able to get it.
Yeah.
They had no one else lined up. They just had the Cassie, and that fell apart.
They looked like they were ready to make one last more push around that Inflame, sort of as you mentioned, but that got stalled out before they could actually make it onto the point. So how could you ask for anything more? We are 2-2 with 7 points in a row here at Paladins. Let's get it back over to the desk.
It's the set that keeps on giving. You get 3 games in a row that all go 7 points, and as if we deserve anything else, we're moving on to a Game 5 between Los Gados and Catapimbas. Gourmizer still with me. Gourmizer, what'd you see there in Game 4? I mean, that is just as far back and forth as the previous 3 games were, and we're going to a Game 5.
I see about 10 feet maybe between Los Gados and potentially closing out this set right
Yeah,
there.
right.
I mean, it's not something you could consistently rely on, but they were there. I honestly think that you have Mika, and this is 2 games in a row, winning you a game in the first one of the 2, doing so much on this one to keep you alive in it based on damage number, slash line, impact of the game. And there's a lot of other good plays, stuff from divinö, from Pénny, that keep them alive and afloat in this match. But Catapimbas have just been on top of it a little bit more. They know where their target priority needs to go. And a lot of it has been specifically on the objective where they've been winning. It's not necessarily been this outrageous, oh man, they just got a full 5-man wipe. It's like, no, Inara was standing there, the rest of you were fighting, so Inara got the point.
Yeah, and in a day where Viktor actually came into these sets with very poor win rates.
Yeah.
He's had a great impact on these last few games. I think that's sort of the situation where you pick, depending on the team that's picking Viktor, maybe just very bad situations, just kind of the luck of the draw for Viktor. Kit-wise, you know, numbers maybe got changed around a little bit here and there, but by and large, what he still provides is so important. And we saw it towards the end of the PPL, more PC teams starting to pick up on Viktor. It's just that consistent long range, pile up the damage. And if there's peel and if you can stay safe, he's a great pick.
And again, in the background somewhere, I can hear Prosper Logic incredibly happy that that's something that's meta right now. Because he works on a ton of maps. You have a lot of position where, yes, long-range hit scan DPS is going to be great for you. It's consistent, as you had said. He typically goes up to the top, if not is the top damage in a game. Plus, and my favorite part is the grenade. When you're running a reset card, Grenadier in there, it just sets you up for good blaster damage in a way where it's just like you're not a blaster. You're not supposed to resemble them. But having that alongside your hit scan means that, yeah, okay, cool, go Haven. I'm still going to hurt you.
Well, we're back to, you remember, however long ago, we were young men when this set first started, and it was there was a lot of KingKaiser playing that Moji, and it was really just 2 maps in a row, but Frog Isle jumped out. Gonna ban out the Moji, definitely more viable, I think, on Stone Keep, so realistic, I think, to take that away from him, because this is probably a map where it's just viable enough that KingKaiser may have reached for it. Barik, though, locked in, Con and Andro for Catapimbas.
And honestly, I mean, since KingKaiser has not played Moji, what have we seen him do? I mean, I've seen the Buck, and it was... Again, he's had good moments. Same thing with the Evie, but it hasn't been enough to like drive this team to a victory yet. And so I'm wondering if it's maybe not, hey, you're a one trick, but hey, your Moji is godlike for some reason, and then everything else starts to maybe slip away afterward. I'm curious to see what they pick up for him here. I don't know if it'll be the Viktor. I expect that to go back to Mika since it did so well earlier.
Yeah.
And they'll grab the Zhin, so this could be huge for them, and it could be another Buck situation where, again, it's impactful but not the most.
You're not getting the 20 kill performances out of KingKaiser, but you're getting great slash lines out of Mika.
Yeah.
All right, Gore, Game 5. Whose draft do you like?
Catapimbas. Nope, Los Gados. They've got Raum. that weight is just so heavy on there. I can't bet against it.
I mean, that's the right answer, right? Where this set is so close, you kind of like one, you kind of like the other. It's Game 5. Let's find ourselves a winner.
Yeah, anybody maybe have a coin or something like that? It's close between these 2 guys right now, man, between Los Gados and Catapimbas. So why don't we head on over to Stone Keep to try and resolve these differences? As you heard them mention, we are going to get a chance to take a look at the Raum here this time. Hopefully, we'll see it played aggressively enough. I know to your liking. Mika, who had an excellent game on the Cassie, is going to be piloting the Viktor here this time as well. And Kaiser is on the Zhin, which I feel like this is a pick he has a really good chance to have another monster performance on.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Zhin is going to be, I think, really good against the other side, too. If you can catch Terminus after the reanimate with the guillotine, that is perfect. Just deny that ultimate value, and you get yours so much faster than he does. also think that it's good to be very aggressive with the Raum, having the Zhin to follow up, and you're just making room for your Viktor. With a Jenos to back it all up, that's overwhelming.
It is a bit scary, though, that Vindo's gotten so many games in a row to play this Androxus. He's clearly kind of worked himself into a rhythm now. That's going to be difficult for them to deal with here on Stone T, where his verticality is strong. Kúze gets the very first kill here of this fight on the Cassie, shutting down Mika on the Viktor. Despite how well Mika played it last game, there is no love lost, it would seem. Percentage built up largely by Los Gados here so far, and they've got decent positioning too. But PabloSchumacher up top going to keep raining in plenty of damage of his own in favor of Catapimbas, but has to fall back. The Viktor's back now suddenly, and they have to give up the position.
Gados, when you play inside Church, that's how you're going to get all that cap time, when you're playing on that low ground mid. But over time, the team with the high ground will win the poke war, unless you engage like this. divinö tries to make some room, but everyone's just hiding above. He can't find anyone.
I don't know if we've talked enough about how good of a set divinö has had, by the way. The Ruckus game that he had, I mean, he has played really, really well. He's on the Fernando, I think, at a point too. And now on this Raum, and if you were wondering if he'd be aggressive on it, well, here is your answer. divinö chips Barinoo down basically by himself. Kaiser right there to follow up, taking down iMäd. That's a double kill. No, a triple kill now for Kaiser, and the Raum continues to lay on the trigger. Pénny takes Kúze right on out of there, and Los Gados ready to come get a mid-fight all in their favor.
That was a sick triple. I don't want us to forget that we just watched divinö do 2,800 damage to someone by running.
Yeah.
His mobility just did 2,800 damage to a Terminus.
He doesn't happen to heal or anything, or have any sustain on the back of that, does he?
Just a little bit.
Just a little
One,
bit.
one ability, 2 abilities, maybe 3 if you count CC immunity as that, but still, so much unanswerable damage by this Terminus. Running into the anti again, he forces him to dash away. This is why that got nerfed.
Yeah.
The patch yesterday. It's 100 less damage, but it's still so much cleaving through, and there's really nothing you can do about it.
And I really appreciate divinö backing me up like that. I talked about the excellent set he had, that he came in, started frag, and appreciate you, buddy, for having my back on that one. Forces the reverse lap from the Androxus, who's on the full defensive at this point. I say it, but he drops the accursed arm. That sounds pretty offensive to me. He does find some damage, but not as much as he was looking for. In comes the Raum, gets caught out, though, by the Khan on the opposite side, but divinö shrugs it off. He's still ready to keep fighting.
And actually, he could have potentially used his ult there, but Terminus can actually block it by looking down with the Siphon, so smart to hold off on it. KingKaiser guillotine takes out Term.
Finds himself a double kill. The Cassie's in some trouble and can't roll away. Kúze ends up falling as well, and divinö, the rest of Los Gados, suddenly stepping on the gas. Where was this aggression from them earlier on in the set? They are unrelenting.
And they need to be with a Raum and a
That's
Zhin.
true.
They have to be close for the Zhin to be in his main range and to be building that guillotine as fast as possible. And Raum just needs to run around. I do want to see the Raum build later, but I don't think we have time with this barrage coming in.
Big barrage damage coming out from Mika. Androxus comes in, immediately catches the hands of the Viktor, continues to stand tall. They'll move over to the left-hand side of this push. Cassie barely able to roll all the way back, but the Khan goes right down to the point to try and push off the one member who's actually contesting. Mika does get PabloSchumacher, who answers back with a kill onto Pénny, but they've still got the Raum. KingKaiser gets a one more kill, taking the Terminus out of this fight too, and Los Gados got 4 members on kill streaks.
He got stuck on the little ledge there, and he could just run through, even though the rest of his team was backing up and waiting to reset. He's Raum. He doesn't care. It doesn't matter when they take up Barinoo.
Takes the Terminus out of the equation too, and that's a successful push for Los Gados. So we asked ourselves, were we in for another 3-3 slugfest? And Los Gados say absolutely not. I think this is their first time getting the mid-fight into the actual conversion here too. They really hadn't done that much this set, so really impressive from them.
I think they just have the perfect composition for it. They even have the Dream Point tank to go with it. And I did notice that the Raum, divinö, started Kronos, which makes me think he's running a dash reset build. And the amount of damage he's done with his knees makes me think that that is entirely possible. Yeah, so he's running distance 4, reset 5.
Yeah.
Plus he started Kronos initially, and he's Kronos 2 already. So he is just going to be doing these dashes over and over, and the only one who can counter him is Khan at close range. That's not going to happen very often with the way he's playing.
It just is not, man. Look at those streaks lighting up for Los Gados. That is an easy way to get 2 quick points in your favor, and the Raum going to come crashing right back down onto the point. divinö having yet another monster performance here on this ROM for him to facilitate for his team. Wants to try and put this on the bed, but Catapimbas have gotten the early percent lead, though they end up losing Vindo for that 39-42% that they built up for it. So we'll see if they can win the fight on the backside. The Terminus has been grabbed. Kaiser right there to provide some follow-up damage. Easy cleanup kill onto Barinoo. A double kill, in fact. He finds a shot onto Kúze, and now they control the midpoint here yet again, and Catapimbas are on full retreat.
That piercing hitbox is huge, and it barely nicked Kúze's head as he was backing up. They have good control here, and solid ultimates too. Barrage to stop people from touching. They almost have guillotine again, and through time and space to melt them down. I don't know what Catapimbas can do.
Terminus is on his way, though. He's going to be the one to try and find the answer, but Barrage was waiting for him. Barinoo falls yet again from the Viktor ultimate. The second that he shows his face, Khan pushed out. They don't even get another touch on this one, Kresnik, as the point gets captured by Los Gados again. Why doesn't everybody get a streak going here this time as Mika finds the double ROM right into the back line to keep up the pressure, and Catapimbas can't even get their feet set.
I'd like to remind you that Catapimbas banned Moji.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, divinö on Raum just having the game of his life.
And dude, this is why Kaiser performance was so important in game 1 and 2, because I kind of think they were right to ban it, right? And when you put that fear into him, it opens up other stuff. Now they've already got the payload pushed up, and 2 minutes with which to push. The ROM won't stop running, looking like Usain Bolt around here as he continues to
Everyone's playing Paladins,
through.
and he's playing Mirror's Edge.
Exactly right.
He's just running in circles all over the place.
Parkour style from ROM here this time. Finally, Kúze, though, gets the kill. That shuts down EuSouOBixoVindo. But Kaiser and Mika follow that up with 2 kills of their own. Now the Cassie isolated over on the left. You can't win the 1v1 up against the ROM. He gets shut down, so does iMäd. And there's only 2 members up to try and stop the push.
And there's actually no way Barinoo can stop the sprint damage. There's only 1 tank up, and that's Khan. Overpower might not even make a huge difference here.
Ends up getting pulled back in through space and time, or through time and space rather, was there to find the kill as well. So they start to push in the payload now. A cursed arm comes out, but that's ROM shrugging off the damage. Vindo has 2 though, and might finally start to slow down this push, but look how much time divinö's able to buy. Finally, we'll take a breath. And Catapimbas have slowed the step.
Yeah, and now there's a minute left, though. They got it so close they were forced to use ultimates. They can just build theirs now. Theirs should build faster, especially this Zhin. That spite with the guillotine boost is going to bring a lot to them. Dome Shield even on the objective. There's really no good answer to it. And they just spent Cassie's scout, so wall hacks for, what, 8 seconds? And then not much for the rest of it.
And Droxus takes to the sky. Does get a pretty critical kill onto Mika, actually, to delay on this next push. That's a lot of their damage coming from this Viktor. And they had to wait a while before they choose to step forward again. But they've got the Terminus out in front, taking heavy fire. The Zhin catches it from the side as well. Immortal now as he shuts down Barinoo. And the rest of the team starts to move in. Kaiser waits on him the second he reanimates, drops the spite on him, and sends him right back to the afterlife. They've got this Khan pinned down as well. He's going to need some backup coming, but that's it for the shield. And Rom's damage can just keep pumping right on in. But the kill feed's starting to light up in favor of Catapimbas. They might have found their defense here, Kresnik.
Kúze has decided he doesn't want to lose this game. They got forced to use the reanimate, but they're all surviving there. That was perfect from the DPS in the back. The Antroxus, I think, was the big turning point there. They needed damage on that Khan as soon as the shout was over to actually get the conversion, but he was already pressuring that Viktor, not letting him get that damage in. And that, I think, was the key to them defending that. Without that Antroxus pressure, they don't get that defense, and they don't have a chance to take this next fight with 4 ultimates going into it.
Well, that is Los Gados' last chance to win via a payload conversion, right? It's going to be all mid-fights from them from here on out. And if you're Catapimbas, you can't feel great about how those mid-fights have gone so far. You've kind of gotten run over by Los Gados up until this point. You've got to find, I think, an answer to divinö on this ROM. He has been a monster running through your backline, doing all this additional damage. But what can he do to slow him down?
Nothing. Literally nothing. You need hard CC. They have Vortex Grip, but again, Raum just chooses his fights so much more than Khan can. Raum just will pick a fight away from the Khan, and there is literally no counter to what he's doing.
Zhin moves in, tries to keep an eye on this Androxus, who's willing to commit the ultimate, who does release all the shots, and he's the one that ends up falling. But Kúze finds himself a double kill on this Cassie, starting to show up when Catapimbas need him here most, even though Mika opens up with a kill of his own. But the Rom's still here too. The Overpower sent one way off of left field, and I think they actually got the kill off that one too, as EuSouOBixoVindo ends up falling to the death, to the damage from Schumacher and throwing him off the edge. The ultimate doesn't find much either on this Rom. In comes the barrage, though, from Mika to try and buy some time, but this is the best fight we've seen yet for Catapimbas.
Catapimbas find their answer. Deal with everybody else. We're going to take damage. We're going to get bounced around. We don't care. Just win every other part of the fight, and that's actually the only thing that they can do.
They've got the percentage built up tremendously here, but Kaiser finally gets the kill onto Barinoo to push him out and maybe get Los Gados right back into this one. So Jenos now here as well from EuSouOBixoVindo to keep everybody healthy. The Androx is in the back line, but they should have an idea now of where he is to try and keep tabs on him. Catapimbas almost here for another push.
It was actually a great call, too, because he turned on the Andy before he was able to take a shot on him. So they had awareness of where he is, but I'm not sure if they still have it because he's getting flanked right now.
That's a sick shot. They get Barinoo, and they get the kill from Mika as well into Kúze. Good answer back from Vindo, but Mika right there to Pablo as well. That means Vindo on this Androx has a ton of heavy lifting to do, and he finds one kill, but only one. divinö gets one. Pénny gets another one. The overtime ticking down, and that's going to do it. Los Gados grab the win and the set. A really hard-fought victory.
Yeah, and it was a great draft for them, honestly. I think that was one on the draft screen for sure, because Catapimbas just didn't get the answer that they need. You just can't let it go for free. You have to find some answer for it, and they only had the con. He was stun gripping other people.
Yeah, he was.
You can't get away with that, and he was doing, guarantee you, 50% of Raum's damage at least was just from running into people.
It was a ton of it, and as you kind of pointed out with that build as well from divinö, he certainly knew that was going to be something that wasn't going to be really checked this game. He should try and facilitate that run as much as possible. That's exactly what he did, but he didn't do this one alone, man. KaiSer had a really, really impressive set to the point where they banned the Moji and let the Raum through, so we could even be singing the praises of divinö here today.
Yeah, it was definitely good by KaiSer. Good by Mika, too. I mean, even on
Exactly.
Serpent Beach, that man was unstoppable on that backline, and I think he had a great job here too. But KaiSer showing why Zhin was being banned in the past, kind of fallen off a bit, but we can see why it's still maybe worth banning over a Moji potentially here with that execute ultimate and that ton of self-sustain that he brings to the table with this character. You have multiple cooldowns that get you out or just keep you alive in the face of danger.
And this is how you win sets, man. It's at the end when we're breaking it down, and we could easily list everybody's name and points when they single-handedly made big plays, right? And I think that's how you make it to this point. That's how you win a 5-game set, is that everyone throughout the set steps up at different times. And I think that they did, man, for this team. We barely even talked about Pénny's name because I think it's hard to talk about the point tanks that much, but he obviously was a monster for them too, building up tons of time on that point for them as well. This is just a really impressive win for Los Gados, man. What a showing.
Yeah, for sure, and that's the showing they're going to need to play in the PPC. You know,
Right.
I believe, if I remember correctly, I think they were the team that qualified in week 1 that didn't have any real known names on it.
Yeah.
So they were against Fine Thin, previously 5-stack, and then the team Triunfo with Ares, the team Mandrake's University with Midtown FRZ from SSG.
Yeah.
All those names, and Los Gados. So they're clearly showing why they belong there.
Ended up being a really impressive performance from them, but we're still not even done with Brazil. We've got one more set to go on the other side of this break.